Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Welcome to another episode of Haqiqatjou, where we discuss religion and politics, the two least controversial subjects. As always, I am your host, Daniel Haqiqatjou, and we have a very exciting episode for you today. Something that will be interesting, informative, maybe a little bit spicy, inshallah. We are reacting to the latest in Wahhabi propaganda, serving the Zionist cause, as always, to divide and conquer the ummah, to backstab the ummah in the most illogical, irrational, inconsistent way. We're going to be reacting, inshallah, to a video put out by Adnan Rashid, where he claims to be neutral when it comes to Iran and Israel, the war. He claims that we have to be neutral as Muslims. We can't support either side because they're both equally bad. That's what he claims in some places. In other places, he says, no, Iran is actually 10 times worse. Iran is actually 10 times worse than Israel. So doesn't this create a contradiction? If we're not supposed to support any side, but one side is 10 times worse, shouldn't we support Israel? This is the contradiction that we're going to delve into in this reaction episode. I also want to give some comments on the ceasefire agreement. I was waiting to comment because I want to see if the ceasefire would actually hold. So I want to analyze what has happened with this ceasefire between Iran and Israel after 12 days. They're calling it the 12-day war. And now it's apparently over, or that's what they want to claim, that it's over and now things are back to normal, except Iran's nuclear capabilities have been completely destroyed and completely wiped out. We're going to talk about whether that's actually the case. What does the future hold for Iran, and what does this mean for Palestine, the continuing genocide of the Palestinians in Gaza? A new Harvard report has estimated or has claimed that there are nearly 400,000 Palestinians that are not accounted for. They're missing, meaning that they're either dead, they're buried under rubble, they're not accounted for. And this is out of a population of Palestinians in Gaza that is 2 million, just a little bit over 2 million, and more than half of them are women and children, or more than half of them are under 18 years old, rather. So 400,000 out of 2 million, this is nearly a fourth. This is over a fifth of the population has already been decimated. The rest are starving to death because of forced famine imposed by the Israeli blockade. These are war crimes. These are crimes against humanity. This is the worst kind of Holocaust that we've ever seen. What does the ceasefire between Israel and Iran mean for the Palestinians? We're going to, inshallah, analyze all of this. Not going to spend too much time analyzing that before we get to the Adnan Rashid reaction and this Wahhabi backstabbing, this Wahhabi sectarianism, that in this most critical time of the ummah facing an existential threat, the Wahhabis have initiated a campaign to divide the Muslims further, literally assisting the IDF and the Zionist machine against the ummah and repeating Zionist talking points. Someone like Adnan Rashid is literally reciting the lines that are being put out and published by the IDF to create division between Sunni and Shia. So we want to analyze this, and it'll all come together, inshallah. Make sure to like the video. That helps with the algorithm in YouTube. Content like this gets arguably suppressed by the YouTube algorithm because we tell it like it is. You can help counter that by actually liking the video, subscribing, and submitting a super chat. Any super chats, inshallah, that are relevant, respectful, I'll read them and respond to them later in the show. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter. This will help us stay in touch with you. We will periodically send material out to you that we don't put anywhere else on social media. And if we ever get taken off of social media, you know, if Trump and his administration decides that they need to crack down on anti-Israel channels, then our channel is going to be one of the first to go. So we need to be able to stay in touch with you and let you know where our videos will be hosted, probably on Rumble, other platforms, Telegram. So we have to be able to contact you. We can stay in touch with you if you subscribe to the newsletter. Okay, so before I get to the Adnan reaction, some brief comments on this ceasefire between Iran and Israel. I'll be honest with you, my initial reaction was disappointment. I felt disappointment. I know a lot of other Muslims were very happy. They see this as an undeniable victory. And I think the reality is that it's not an undeniable victory. It's not an undeniable loss or defeat. It's somewhere in the middle. And my disappointment, I'm usually an pretty optimistic person, and some people even say that I'm too optimistic, too upbeat in my projections. But I'm disappointed because I think that there is a major opportunity lost, and the whole structure of the conflict puts Muslims on the back foot. And I'll explain what I mean by that with a simple analogy. If there is a bully who is terrorizing kids in the population, in the school, a bully who is just going and beating kids up in your school, and, you know, he punches out one kid, and that kid has to go to the hospital, he has severe injuries, he can't return back to school. That's one kid. The bully punches out another kid. The same thing happens. The bully punches out a third kid. The same thing happens. Then the fourth kid, the bully punches that kid, just sucker punches him, surprise attack. And the kid doesn't end up becoming unconscious, has to go to the hospital. He survives the blow. He toddles, he loses his balance, but he stays on his feet, and he doesn't have to leave the school. Does that mean that that fourth student has won because he survived the punch? Well, maybe in a sense, it kind of makes the bully seem weaker than he really is. Prior to the fourth kid, 3 kids were knocked down flat. 3 kids were sent to the hospital and they sustained permanent injuries. The fourth kid fared a little better. So the bully's reputation has been harmed, but we can't say that this fourth student has actually won, and we can't say that the bully has been defeated. We can't say that, especially because we know that the bully is going to try again. The bully is going to sucker punch you again. He's going to surprise attack you again. And the very fact that he can do that means that he has the advantage over you. He has a strategic advantage because he can surprise you and catch you off guard. And maybe you don't get knocked out the first time. Maybe his hand didn't really connect with your jaw. Maybe the fist didn't really connect with a sensitive part of your face, so you weren't knocked out. But next time you might not be so lucky. Next time he might connect with your jaw, and that's it. You're going to be permanently disabled. You're going to be taken out. And you haven't done anything to prevent this possibility in the future. That's the problem with Iran, what has happened with Iran. If Iran continued the hostility, continued the aggression towards Israel, continued to lob, even if it was a small number of ballistic missiles every day, to keep Israel in this state of panic, this would have existential consequences for the state of Israel. Their economy is in shambles. Politically, it is a huge mess. Netanyahu was already walking on thin ice with the Israeli public. His support would plummet even more, just continuously, until there is a coup against Netanyahu, until he is deposed by force, and you thrust Israeli society into this political crisis. These are the kinds of opportunities that Iran has left on the table because they have agreed to a ceasefire. Israel was clearly desperate for a ceasefire. The US was desperate for a ceasefire. And I think Iran was desperate for a ceasefire. Iran also wanted a ceasefire because about 30 of their top generals and military officials had been assassinated. Much of the military infrastructure had been hit. There were plenty of civilian casualties building up. They had completely lost any kind of control over their own skies, over major cities like the capital Tehran or Isfahan or Shiraz. So the situation was bad. Iran was suffering. But this whole conflict was going to be about who could tolerate the most pain. Who was going to flinch first? Was it going to be Israel or was it going to be Iran? And I think that Israel has shown throughout its history that it cannot sustain a long war. It cannot sustain a war that's longer than a week or 2 weeks or 12 days. Iran, on the other hand, has a long record of being in war for years. The war between Iran and Iraq lasted almost a decade in the 1980s, from 1980 to about 1988. Iran has proven that it can survive these kinds of long, drawn-out wars. So that shows you that Iran has a higher tolerance for pain. So they should not have, they should use that as an advantage against an opponent that does not have that same kind of tolerance. Now, if you're worried about the U.S. coming in, yeah, the U.S. can amplify the pain that Israel is already causing, but it's not going to be something qualitatively different. It's not going to be existential in the same way. And this became clear early on. The whole strategy that Israel had was to do this surprise attack to take out the top military generals through assassination, and then threaten any successor within the chain of command with killing their wives and their children. And a recording was published by the Washington Post, I believe, or maybe it was the Wall Street Journal, where they recorded an IDF agent or Mossad agent making a call to one of the military administrators or lieutenants in the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard, and calling him and threatening him and saying in Farsi, fluent, perfect Farsi, do you know who we are? We know exactly where we are, where you are. We know where you live. We know everything about you. We know where your wife is, where your kids are. And if in the next 12 hours you don't record and send us a video that says that you are basically going to go against and revolt against the supreme leader, if you don't send us a video with you saying that, we're going to kill you, we're going to kill your wife, we're going to kill all your children. You have 12 hours. Send it to us. This call, they made this call to basically all the top brass of the IRGC and even the regular Iranian military with this kind of threat. The whole plan was they wanted to create a revolt, an internal revolt, where they assassinate a lot of the key players in the Iranian government. And then the rest of them are too afraid to step up. The rest of them are too afraid to come and resume responsibilities to take their place. And they are defecting. They're defecting from the Islamic government, and they're going to revolt. And that will spark a uprising, a popular uprising. And this is why the name of the operation, that Israel's operation against Iran, was titled Operation Rising Lion. Operation Rising Lion. Like, well, what does Rising Lion mean? And anyone who is Iranian knows this, but if you're not familiar with the history of Iran, you know that the flag of Iran before the Islamic Revolution in 1979 was, again, you have the red and green bars, and then in the middle you have a lion. Shir wa Shamshir, a lion holding a sword. And behind him is a rising sun. A rising sun. So a rise of the lion. This is the operation, and they're promoting who? They're promoting the crown prince, Reza Pahlavi, the son of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who was deposed in 1979 by the Islamic Revolution and Khomeini coming into power. So they wanted a rise of this Pahlavi loyalists, monarchists, Zoroastrians in Iran to come and topple the supreme leader. That is their whole plan, because they know that they don't have the weapons capability or the logistical capability to conduct a ground invasion to do the same kind of regime change that they were able to do in countries like Iraq, in countries like Libya, and elsewhere. So this is a logistical challenge with regime change. You can't actually invade Iran by land. It's too difficult. It's too costly. It's too risky. The chances of defeat are very high. The United States is not going to do it. Israel is not able to do it. So the best chance of toppling the Iranian regime is actually to foment a civil war, to foment an uprising, a popular uprising, to depose the supreme leader and to end the Revolutionary Guard, to end the revolutionary government. So this was the whole plan. When that plan did not work, when Iran, after the first day, they were able to recover and they started shooting ballistic missiles back at Israel, when it became clear that the Iranian people, even the monarchists, many of the monarchists in Iran, many of those who are opposed, the moderates, the liberals, the secularists, those who are opposed to the politics of the supreme leader, they're against the revolution, even those elements within Iran rallied around the central government. They rallied against Khamenei. And they recognize that the existential threat, Israel wants to destroy Iran in the same way that they were fundamental and key in destroying their other Middle Eastern neighbors. We don't want to be the next Iraq. We don't want to be the next Libya. And even if we have a problem with Khamenei and we have a problem with the Islamic Revolution, now's not the time. We have to stand with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard and the supreme leader. This was the opposite effect that Israel had hoped for. And you had even Sunni groups, Sunnis who are being oppressed by the Islamic regime, by the Shi'i Islamic regime. They were siding with the Ayatollah as well. They were making statements. We have our differences with the government here in Iran, big differences, and we have grievances against them. But now is not the time for that. Now is the time to stand united against this existential threat of Israel backed by the United States. So this was the opposite effect of what Israel had hoped for. So in that sense, Israel's plan was a complete failure. They failed to topple the Iranian government. And so that is a major advantage that Iran had, that they were able to survive that plot. They were able to survive that first salvo, that first operation that we discussed, that involving cyber attacks, assassinations, taking out their communication systems, all of these Mossad sleeper cells, Hindu nationals that had come in and infiltrated the Iranian networks and were giving spy information to Mossad. Iran was able to withstand that. That's all that Israel really had. That was all that Israel had. It failed. It succeeded in Lebanon, but it failed in Iran. It succeeded when it came to Lebanon last year with the pager attack, for example, taking out Hassan Nasrallah with these massive ordinances that they dropped in downtown Beirut, decapitating the Hezbollah leadership. That worked. That really debilitated Hezbollah and neutralized them. But they were trying the same exact thing with Iran, and it failed. It was a massive failure. So once you survive that opening salvo, when the bully has given you his best shot, and it was a surprise attack, and you're still standing, and now you know that the bully, he doesn't have any more major, hooks or uppercuts or punches waiting in the wing, because he's spent. He put all he had in that first blow, and you survived. Now, even though you're hurting, even though you're hobbling, maybe you can't even see straight because the punch was that hard, but you're still standing. And what you can do now is going to really be extremely dangerous and threatening for that bully. Iran had that opportunity. Instead, they declare ceasefire. They accept a ceasefire. If the US and Israel stop their hostilities, we're going to stop our hostilities. This is a strategic mistake. And the US also got out of this conflict very cleanly. And this is being credited to Donald Trump, and he's being praised by his base. Oh, see, we didn't get involved in World War III, didn't break out, and we didn't have this quagmire with a third Gulf War in the Middle East. Great job for Donald Trump. He went in with the bombers. He took out Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities, and there were no consequences in terms of economically, militarily, for the American people. No Americans were killed. This is great. This is great. Iran didn't send any message to the United States. Iran didn't send any message that there are consequences for coming in and bombing our most sensitive military facilities and attempting to destroy them, not to mention funding Israel and giving them all kinds of logistical support, defending them against our attacks. Like, Israel is only able to survive because of U.S. support. So, of course, the U.S. is complicit in Israel's aggression. Of course, the U.S. is complicit in all of this genocide of the Palestinians. So, but they faced, Iran was not able to mete out any consequences for that, like economically closing the Strait of Hormuz to cause oil prices to increase throughout the world. Iran never did that. Maybe China wasn't going to let them do that. Maybe Russia was not going to let them do that. Whatever the case may be internally, the point is that this is another big problem as far as Iran's future is concerned. Because what prevents the next Israeli attack? And we know that there's going to be another Israeli attack. We know the next surprise attack is being planned, has been planned, and they are ramping up towards it as we speak. Iran is going to be attacked again by Israel, and again, the United States is going to be dragged into it. The United States is going to be forced by Israel to provide support, to provide the weapons, to provide the funding, to provide the defense, to provide the intelligence, to provide the logistics. All of that is going to play out in the same exact way it has been playing out for the past 18 months. There's no change. Nothing has changed in that situation. Israel still has the objective to topple the Iranian regime. And we saw the map, didn't we? We saw the whole strategy of Israel to neutralize or destroy all of their regional opponents. And they've been so successful at this for the past 75 years. And Iran is the last bulwark, the last pin to drop. They're not going to stop. And this became clear that when the ceasefire was being brokered by Donald Trump, and Donald Trump announced that in 12 hours the ceasefire will go into effect, Israel used that 12 hours to launch another massive attack. The biggest attack in the past 12 days came within hours of the ceasefire. And that's the way Israel operates. Okay, ceasefire, let's take advantage. Up to the last minute, we're going to launch hundreds of airstrikes. Hundreds. In densely populated areas of Tehran. We're going to take out some of the key infrastructure of the Revolutionary Guard. They hit some of the key prisons. One of the main prisons that is used by the Iranian government, they hit that, basically disabling part of that facility. And that, what does that mean? That means spies. That means anti-government individuals that are held in that prison, political dissidents who are held in that prison. Possibly some of them escaped, maybe many of them escaped. They're trying to decapitate other leaders, trying to assassinate other leaders, all within hours of this ceasefire that has already been declared by Trump hours before it goes into effect. This shows that Israel wants to do as much damage to the Iranian government as possible. So maybe there can be some kind of popular revolt, or the dissidents within the country can maybe make a move. So Israel still has the same objective. Now is a question of when is the next strike? When is the next surprise attack? What else do they have up their sleeve? And because Iran has been so reactive and Iran did not establish deterrence and Iran took the first opportunity for ceasefire that came onto its table, this is going to be inevitable. This is going to be inevitable. So how can we be so happy and optimistic about that? We've only prolonged this conflict. We've only prolonged the Zionist agenda. We've only prolonged. It's still that decisive conflict is not coming until Israel decides that, and they're going to decide that in the near future. Maybe by the end of the year, maybe in the next month or two. So that's why I'm not the most positive about the situation. Yeah, I'm happy that Iran was able to survive. And yes, it's good that now Iran maybe can do something about its air defenses. It's also clear that the enrichment facilities were not destroyed by the Israeli strikes or by the U.S. strike of last Saturday, the strikes against Fordow. Natanz was apparently destroyed, but the problem is, so this is the whole logic of wanting to take out Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities. Iran has been enriching uranium using these centrifuges. That's the key technology, are centrifuges that are used to enrich uranium to get them to a point of radioactivity where they can be used, for example, in nuclear power plants and medical technology, civilian uses. You can enrich uranium to 3, 4, 5, 10%, and they become radioactive enough for these types of purposes. And Iran has always claimed that we are enriching uranium for purely civilian reasons, not for a weapons program. Israel doesn't trust this. The United States doesn't trust this. They plausibly believe that what Iran is trying to do is enrich uranium up to a certain level where it becomes very easy to enrich the uranium slightly more, up to 90% enrichment, at which point the uranium becomes radioactive enough to be used for a nuclear weapon. So Iran is just stockpiling all of this sub 90% uranium and stockpiling it, having it on hold so that if they decide that they want a nuclear weapon, it will only take them weeks or months to enrich that uranium to 90% and get it ready for a nuke. And that's what Israel is worried about. Because why is Israel worried about this? Because they know as soon as Iran gets a nuke, then their plans for Middle East hegemony, Middle East domination are over. It's over because now you can't go and invade Iran. You can't go and invade Iran because there's the nuclear deterrence, just like the United States doesn't invade Russia, doesn't have a direct confrontation with Russia or with China, or more relevantly with North Korea. As soon as North Korea developed a nuclear weapon, and with the help of China and others, and they developed the ICBMs, the intercontinental ballistic missiles, to be able to deliver a nuclear warhead, the U.S. doesn't want to attack North Korea. They will just try to isolate North Korea. They will try to diplomatically, economically squeeze North Korea, but there's not going to be any kind of regime change happening in North Korea because they have the nuclear deterrence. The other reason is that if you try to regime change through a popular uprising, you try to foment a civil war with a nuclear power, or even with a country that they might not have nukes, but they have the material to build nukes. If you foment a civil war in that country, you don't know who's going to come into power. Maybe the group that comes into power to replace the supreme leader and the Shi'i Islamic government, maybe the group that comes into power is worse than them from Israel's perspective or the U.S. perspective. Maybe they're more belligerent towards Israel than the current Iranian government. So that's a big risk that you don't want to take. Maybe the next government is going to be more willing to launch a nuclear weapon or to use dirty bombs like radioactive material in a conventional weapon to spread radioactive material or chemicals within Israel. So that's too much of a risk. So we have to stop Iran from being able to acquire nuclear weapons strategically if we eventually want to regime change them. And that is the ultimate objective, to regime change Iran. The nukes simply get in the way. And the nukes are simply the deterrent, or the potential to get nukes are the deterrent. That's why we have to destroy their facilities. So Iran has these three main facilities in Iran. You have the Fordow facility. You have another Natanz facility. And another facility in Isfahan. You have, and then a heavy water facility as well. These are the main facilities that are known, that Iran has disclosed. Do they have other secret facilities? Undoubtedly, they do. Undoubtedly, they have other secret facilities as well. Israel was able to destroy the surface level of the Natanz facility, the Isfahan facility. They were able to destroy the surface of the Arak heavy water facility. But the way that Iran has built these facilities is that they're deep underground. They're deep underground, hundreds of feet or meters, over 100 meters underground. And in Fordow, that is their most secure facility. It is 100 feet under a mountain, or 100 meters under a mountain. So you have this dense granite above the facility. And below that granite of a mountain, you have ultra reinforced concrete. And this makes the facility impenetrable to conventional bombing, to conventional bombs. The US, Israel does not have the capabilities to strike that facility, to destroy that facility. That facility has many of the centrifuges that Iran uses to enrich uranium. And also it's reported that their stockpile, a large percentage of their stockpile is stored in Fordow, under this mountain. So it becomes a priority, a strategic objective of Israel to destroy Fordow. They don't have the bombs in order to do it. The United States potentially has bombs to do this. In fact, these are bombs, penetrating bunker buster bombs that were specifically developed by the United States for the purpose of Fordow, for the purpose of destroying the nuclear facilities at Fordow. The US has these ordnances, these bombs, and the aircraft that are able to carry these bombs, because they're 30,000-pound bombs, massive bombs that can only be dropped with certain types of bombers, like the B-2 bomber, which was used. So Saturday, the US flew over with their B-2 bombers. They dropped 12 or 14 of these bunker busters, many of them on Fordow, others in Isfahan. And they claim, Donald Trump claims, mission accomplished. We were able to wipe out this nuclear facility and destroy Iran's nuclear program. More recently now, you have U.S. intelligence group saying that actually indications are that the facilities have not been destroyed and the stockpiles have not been destroyed. There's no evidence to show that they've been destroyed. Israel is now admitting that these facilities have not been destroyed. And of course, Iran, the initial indications of the Iranian government is that they are still able to enrich. They have full capabilities to enrich. At most, their program has been put back by 6 months. That's the setback. They can get back to the same position in terms of enrichment capabilities within 6 months. So that strategic objective of Israel and the United States has also failed. Iran, by all indications, still has full enrichment capabilities. And if it's not at the 100% capability that they had before last Saturday, or before even the war started 14 days ago, it's going to be back at that level within 6 months, 7 months. So this, if this is good news if you support the Iranian side. It's very bad news for the United States and for Israel. But the point is that Israel understands that this war is not over. They're just waiting for the next opportunity to strike. And it's just a matter of when, not if. And Iran is going to have to try its best to deter or to be prepared for when this surprise attack eventually will come. They'll have to really beef up their counterintelligence. They'll have to really neutralize all of these Mossad sleeper cells in the country. They'll have to deport a lot of these Hindu nationalists that have infiltrated the country. A lot of Afghan nationalists have infiltrated the country. So when the Taliban took over in Afghanistan, a lot of the secularists and the US-aligned Afghans in Afghanistan, they fled the Taliban and they came into Iran. They came into Iran and they're Mossad agents and they're engaging in terrorist attacks against Iran. So now Iran is cracking down on these elements within the country. So this is a matter of when, not if, Israel is going to attack again and they're going to drag the United States into the attack. Iran has an opportunity to beef up its counterintelligence, an opportunity to develop some kind of air defense system, acquire some advanced jets, 5th generation fighter jets. Maybe they can get it from China. Maybe they can fulfill the order that was placed with Russia for Russian fighter jets, because this was their main weakness in the war. The main weakness that Iran had is that they could not control their skies. They could not deter the Israeli fighter jets from coming in and dropping these cruise missiles, air-to-surface missiles. There was no deterrent for this. So that's the main thing that Iran really has to contend with. And there's reports already that one of the military administrators from Iran is in China right now, meeting with the Chinese Defense Administration and trying to maybe work out a deal, trying to acquire weapons necessary for beefing up their air defense. So I'm sure there'll be reports about this in the future. One of the big things that also is positive for Iran is that the material that Iran needs to build up its missile systems, the ballistic missiles that they used against Israel, those ballistic missiles were not destroyed. Their program, their ability to produce these missiles, the hypersonic missiles or the conventional ballistic missiles, they maintain those capabilities as before. So, and they can continue to stockpile, they continue to build their arsenal of hypersonic missiles, and the supply lines that they need to build those missiles have also been preserved, because the material, the explosive materials, the metals that are needed, a lot of it is coming from China. China is providing this, and Israel and the United States cannot disrupt those supply lines. This is a big positive for Iran. Trying to cut off that supply line would result in a direct confrontation with China, and neither Israel, neither the United States want to directly confront China. So that means that Iran's supply lines are safe when it comes to producing ballistic missiles and other weapon systems. So I think that in the future, Israel is going to have more of a difficulty pulling the United States into a war with Iran. But so maybe this is good reason why they will try to launch another attack soon. Certainly within the presidential term of Donald Trump. Certainly within his presidential term, they will want to strike again at Iran. And I think it's highly possible that within the next 6 months, they will strike again. Because they know that Iran was not paralyzed, was not fully disabled. They still maintain all of their main ballistic missile capabilities. They're just going to learn. Iranians are going to learn what the weaknesses were, what the failures were in the past 12 days, in the past 2 weeks, and they're going to fill those gaps. They're going to fix those problems. The next attack is going to be less effective. Now, Iran knows more what to expect in a surprise attack. So we'll see. We'll see. Those are my thoughts. What does it mean for the Palestinians? Fortunately, it seems like the Palestinians still do not have a solution. Israel is continuing to conduct this genocide. They're ready to take out the remaining surviving Palestinians in Gaza, trying to push them into the Sinai, trying to push them into Egypt, trying to get them to flee through mass starvation, mass killings. And there were reports that the war with Iran did weaken the IDF, that the IDF couldn't pay as much attention on slaughtering innocent Palestinians. But unfortunately, it's not enough. It's not enough to deter Israel. And it's a huge problem that Iran did not make it a condition of the ceasefire for the slaughter in Gaza to cease. At least you could have negotiated the entry of aid into Gaza, but apparently they weren't able to do that. Not that Israel would honor any type of agreement. They've already broken many agreements with Hamas directly, releasing hostages for easing the blockade to allow aid to come in. Hamas has already made those agreements, and Israel and the U.S. lied, and they didn't fulfill the agreement that they made for aid. So that's a factor too. But, I think that maybe, from my perspective, there could have been more done. And if you believe that Israel is not going to respect any type of agreement to ease the blockade against the Palestinians, then don't agree to a ceasefire. Continue the barrage. Continue the pummeling of Tel Aviv and Haifa and these Israeli cities. Continue to punish them. This is why we can't say that Iran is heroic, right? And people ask this, and again, people think in binaries. They think Iran is either a hero, this savior of the ummah, or they're the worst shaitan. They're exactly equal to Israel. They're equal to Israel or even worse than the Zionists. This kind of binary thinking, which is, it's an IQ problem. It's people with low IQ, they can only think in binaries. There can be no gray area. There can be no middle position. But when you fall, like when someone like me falls in that middle position, where I'm saying that we need to support Iran for this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason. But I also think that Shiism is a deviant, deviance of Islam. When I say that Iran and condemn Iran for supporting Bashar al-Assad in his crimes against the Syrian people don't understand that. And a lot of these low IQ people don't understand that. They think that, well, either Daniel is an agent of Iran, or if Daniel is not a full-blown enemy of Iran, then that must mean that he's a unconditional supporter of Iran because of their low IQ binary thinking. When in reality, things are in the middle. We can't call Iran heroic, first of all, because of its history and what it has supported in Syria and in Iraq and in other parts of the Middle East. We can't say that they're heroes. We can't give them that kind of unconditional praise. But we also recognize that what they are doing against Israel, that is praiseworthy. That is something to support. We should back Iran. We should back them when they're fighting against this genocidal force that is mass slaughtering our Palestinian brothers and sisters, and plans to mass slaughter Arabs, and plans to mass slaughter Muslims in general, and destroy Islam. We should support anyone who opposes that. So people, they don't... Unfortunately, this is what is causing the confusion that leads the well-meaning Sunni Muslims to fall into sectarianism, to fall into the Wahhabi propaganda from people like Adnan, Rashid, and others. Whereas a more nuanced position, whereas a more conditional position like I've been preaching for the past 18 months is harder to understand. It's harder to get behind. It's harder sometimes to express, and therefore it has less popularity. But I think nowadays, in the past 2 weeks, there's been a huge rise among Sunnis against sectarianism, and the Wahhabis are on the back foot. The Wahhabis are being thrown in the trash. People see the obvious necessity to put aside sectarianism for the purpose of opposing the Zionist regime, the Zionist advancement and the genocide against Palestinians, against Iran. And this is what I have been calling for the past 18 months, since October 7th. And by the way, this is what the Palestinians themselves have been calling for. The Palestinian resistance has also said, put sectarianism aside. Abu Ubaidah, for example, Sinwar, Haniya, all of the Islamic resistance leadership have said, we also have our problems with Iran. We also have our problems with Shiism. But they are supporting our resistance against genocide, and therefore we are allying with them. We are working with them. And from the beginning, I have said that makes a lot of sense, and that is 100% consistent with the principles of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah and Orthodox Islam. That's what I've been saying since October 7th. And what have these Wahhabi deviants and sectarian morons blasted me with? They said I'm a crypto Rafidi, I'm a secret Shi'i, I'm a deviant, I'm a kafir, I'm this, I'm that, I'm a Rafidi. Non-stop smear campaign against Daniel. And then I say, well, okay, you're attacking me like this. Are you going to say the same thing about the Palestinians, the Palestinian leadership? And then they're quiet, they're silent, they don't want to reveal themselves, because I have the same exact position as the Palestinian leadership. The only honest one, which we're going to talk about in a second, was Adnan Rashid, who said, yeah, the Palestinians are foolish. The Palestinians are foolish for working with Iran. I do condemn them for that. Adnan was the only one stupid enough to openly reveal and be consistent as a Wahhabi in that regard. And that exposed him. That really exposes him, and not only not to mention the fact that he's calling for Muslim-Hindu unity. He wants Muslims to unite with Hindus in India, and he thinks there's no problem because the Hindus. Why would we have a problem with Hindus? Hello, don't you know that the Hindus in India are rabidly in support of the BJP and Modi and the Hindu nationalists, Hindu fascists who are lynching Muslims and want to kill all Muslims in India? Don't you know that the Hindus are in popular support, and you are calling for unity with Muslims and Hindus in India? But you can't call for unity or allying with Shia against Israel? Seems inconsistent. Seems like a double standard. So we're going to talk about Adnan Rashid. But now, hopefully, you've seen the light. A lot of my audience, unfortunately, sad to say, they didn't trust me. I don't know the percentage, but there was enough of you all who didn't trust me, and you raised your eyebrows, or you said, I'm done with Daniel because he is saying that we should align and cooperate with Iran. Does Daniel not care about the Syrians? Does Daniel not care about the Iraqis? He is an Iranian agent. He is a crypto Rafidi. You didn't trust me. You didn't trust me. And only now when you have all kinds of Muslim scholars, leaders from the most, reputable Islamic institutions calling for supporting Iran, now you see that what I was saying for 18 months, I guess it made sense. I guess Daniel was right this whole time. I guess Daniel was right. Sectarianism is a problem. I'm happy for that, because if at the end of the day that's what we learn, it takes us 18 months to learn this, that sectarianism in the face of the enemies of Islam who want to wipe us off the face of the earth, sectarianism is not permissible. It's actually not what Islam calls for. We have to work together to survive. If that's what it took 18 months to learn, then alhamdulillah, I'm glad that you have learned it. Now we have to move on. Now we have to grow. Now we have to do the work that's necessary. Now that we can come to an understanding. That's what I hope that has come away, we've come away with, and we shun these Wahhabis. We throw this Wahhabi ideology in the trash, this deviance. It's time to end Wahhabism. Our documentary came out. There's no response to it. There's no substantive response to it. from the Wahhabis. Like, it's embarrassing the type of response that they try to put out. It's actually quite humiliating and is revealing of their ignorance, the type of response that they put out. Maybe I'll do response to some of these Wahhabi responses to our documentary on Wahhabism, if there's enough interest for that. But yeah, Wahhabism needs to end. This kind of blind sectarianism designed to just divide the Muslims so that it makes it easier for the Zionists to conquer us or the British to conquer us. This is backstabbing the ummah. It needs to end. And this takes us to Adnan Rashid. This takes us to Adnan Rashid and our reaction to him. So he put out this video, and I've challenged Adnan Rashid to debate, because for the past 2 weeks, and even since October 7th, he's been putting out anti-Shi'i, anti-Iran screeds. He has more animosity, if we just judge by the amount of posting he's done. He has more animosity against Iran and the Shia than he does of Israel and the Zionists, and certainly Judaism. He doesn't speak about Judaism at all as a religion. This is his whole agenda for the past 18 months, and especially in the past 2 weeks. He's put so much effort into demonizing Iran and the Shia. And the main claim that he makes is that he's ambiguous about this. Sometimes he says that we have to be neutral. Iran and Israel are equally bad. They both have crimes. And at other times he says, no, Iran is much, much worse. And even in this video, as we'll see, he contradicts himself. So let's listen to this, and I'll give you my thoughts and analysis. I've challenged him to debate. He refuses. He runs away, and this is why I termed him auntie. You're no longer Uncle Adnan, you're Auntie Adnan. You're Auntie retard, because the kinds of claims that you make are so ridiculous, so outrageous, so stupid, that I have a difficulty believing that you are not an agent. It's actually my husn al-dhan to call you retarded. It's actually my husn al-dhan to call you retarded, because that's a better explanation. Rather than saying that you're an agent and that you're on a payroll, rather than saying that, I'm having husn al-dhan of you by calling you a retard. You're just mentally disabled, like an actual medical condition that you have, that you can't see how illogical what you're saying and what you're preaching actually is. So it's my husn al-dhan to call you auntie retard as you scurry along. You know, you flee from debate. I'm being nice to you, Adnan. So here's his video. It's not that long. It's about 11 minutes long. I'm going to provide you some data, some thoughts, some history that Adnan denies you because he's trying to deceive you.
Here I am. There has been a war going on in the Middle East. As we all know, Iran and Israel are bombing each other. And today we heard the news that the US got involved and they bombed. First of all, we want to clarify that we feel very strongly about the people of Iran. They don't deserve to be punished for the policies of the governments. There are people being bombed. There are civilians being bombed. So our hearts go out to them, and we pray that Allah protect all innocent people around the world from the wrong decisions and policies of some of these governments.
So let's keep in mind, his heart goes out to the people of Iran. Okay, if your heart goes out to the people of Iran, shouldn't you oppose the Israelis trying to create civil war in Iran and topple the Iranian government to foment civil war and destruction of the Iranian state? Shouldn't you oppose that? If I said that my heart goes out to the people of Iraq, my heart goes out to the people of Iraq, like in 2003, when the United States decided to invade Iraq to topple Saddam Hussein. And I said, my heart goes out to the people of Iraq, but, you know, the Iraqi regime, Saddam Hussein, he's an evil man. He has so much blood on his hands. So I can't support him, and I can't support the United States. I'm neutral. What happened to Iraq? What happened when the United States invaded Iraq in cooperation with Israel, by the way, at the behest of Israel? The United States went into the Second Gulf War in 2003, invaded with a shock and awe campaign that wiped out, by the end of it, over 1 million Iraqis. If your heart really went out to the Iraqis, you would be against the United States invading. You would be against that war. You wouldn't be neutral about it if your heart really went out to the Iraqis. So we'll see that when he says that his heart goes out to the Iranians, this is just empty speech. This is meaningless.
So I wanted to clarify our position on this conflict. There are a lot of views flying around out there on Twitter and other social media platforms. A lot of people are backing Iran because they hate Israel so much for its crimes it committed in Gaza. There's a genocide going on. Israeli crimes are well known to the whole world, and the tide is turning. Actually, the tide has already turned, in my opinion. No one wants to support Israel anymore. If you are a moral person, if you're a good person, if you have any moral standards or values, you would never stand for a state like the State of Israel. On the other hand, we have Iran, and Iran is a very controversial issue. There are Muslims divided on Iran. Many Muslims support Iran in this because they're saying Iran is the only power that's standing up to the Israelis, while others say no, Iran does not deserve our support for the crimes Iran committed in Syria, Iraq, and Yemen. And I'm from that persuasion. I believe Iran is definitely not in favor of the Muslims of the Middle East because Iranian policies in the last 20 odd years have been very, very negative. Iranian regime has inflicted major damage to Muslim interest in the Middle East, to Muslim people in general. For example, if you look at the situation in Syria, there was a genocide in Syria of nearly 600,000 people, give and take, few 100,000 people. But the agreed upon number, the most cited number is 600,000. It could be higher, it could be lower. Okay. At the same time, what happened in Iraq?
So let's go to Syria. This is the example that the Wahhabis like to trot out as if they really care about Syrians. He's saying 600,000 deaths, and he's attributing this to Iran. 600,000 is the total death toll, according to international human rights groups. 600,000 is the total that includes military and civilians on both sides. On both sides. So you have the Assad faction, Bashar al-Assad, on one side, and then you have the rebel factions on the other side. The total amount of deaths attributed to both sides is 600,000, but Adnan Rashid, either because he's ignorant or because he's being deliberately deceptive, he's attributing all 600,000 of these to Iran. How is this fair? How is this just? Because first of all, why shouldn't you divide it up? Divide it up according to the official numbers. Bashar al-Assad's side is responsible for 400,000. These are the official numbers. Around 400,000 killed by Bashar al-Assad's faction, 200,000 killed by the rebel factions. And the rebel factions are a wide variety, diverse group of different factions rebelling against Bashar al-Assad. And each of those factions are backed by different international actors or agencies from the West and from the Gulf and the Middle East. So it's really 400,000 on the side of Bashar al-Assad, 200,000 on the side of the rebels. He's adding these up and he's saying this is all Iran's fault. This is all Iran's fault. This is not just. This is not fair. Why wouldn't you say that, well, here's 400,000 that Bashar al-Assad is responsible for, that secular Ba'athist, he's not even Shia. Bashar al-Assad is not even Shia. He's a secular Ba'athist, and his background is an Alawi background. Alawis are not 12 or Shia. That's not the same religion even as Islam, as the 12 or Shia. Alawis are considered to be non-Muslims according to the 12 or Shia, according to Sunnis as well. So Bashar al-Assad is responsible for 400,000, And yes, Bashar al-Assad had backers. He had backers. And Iran wasn't even necessarily the biggest backer of Bashar al-Assad. What about Russia? Arguably, Russia was providing the biggest bombs and the biggest air support that was causing the most amount of death in Syria since 2011. Why isn't Russia mentioned by any of these Wahhabis, actually? Furthermore, countries like Saudi, countries like the UAE, countries like Qatar, they were also involved. They were also backing some of the rebel groups at the initial stages of the revolution. Do those countries get attributed with any of these deaths? Any of these 600,000 deaths? Are their hands bloodied by any of that? Or we have to ignore Bashar al-Assad, the Alawis. We have to ignore the Russians. We have to ignore the Gulf states. We have to just pin everything on Iran and Hezbollah. This is not just. A more just perspective, a more just evaluation would say that these are 600,000 deaths. The main responsibility falls on the Ba'athist secular tyrant dictator Bashar al-Assad, who is responsible for this slaughter and his crackdown against the Arab Spring. The main responsibility falls on him. Then, arguably, the Russians, and then also Iran and Hezbollah. Yes, they are responsible. Yes, they are an accomplice to these crimes, and they should be held responsible for these crimes, the amount of blood that has been shed. And there are these other actors as well. There are these other countries that have been involved as well. That is a more just analysis, a more objective analysis, a more accurate analysis. But because Adnan Rashid is a propagandist, because he is dishonest, he just says 600,000, this is all because of Iran. This is all because of Iran. In reality, if we look at the Syrian revolution, it didn't begin as a sectarian conflict, by the way. It didn't begin as a sectarian conflict. It began as a pro-democratic Arab Spring protest. Just like there are protests in Tunisia, there are protests in Egypt and the rest of the Arab world, there were protests. People going out into the streets in Damascus, in Idlib, in Syria, Aleppo, in Syria, to protest Bashar al-Assad and his unjust, tyrannical rule. Him and his fathers. It was a peaceful protest. Then Bashar al-Assad cracked down in the most violent, brutal way, and this forced the rebels, or forced the protesters to become rebels, to take up arms. And then this served as an opportunity for other international factions to fight a proxy war within Syria. This is why Russia got involved. This is why Saudi got involved. This is why Iran got involved. The United States got involved. Israel got involved to fight a proxy war with the blood of the Syrian people. Then it became sectarian. Then it became the huge disaster that it became. By the time it ended, by the time Bashar al-Assad was deposed last year in November. So why can't we see the whole picture of this Syrian conflict? Why can't Adnan, who claims to be a historian, why can't he give us the full picture of this? Because that distracts from his propaganda. It undermines his propaganda against Iran. It undermines the propaganda against Iran, and it favors Israel because the Israelis, the IDF spokesperson, the Arabic spokesperson for the IDF, is putting out these talking points that, Sunnis, never forget Syria. Never forget the Syrian Sunnis that Iran slaughtered unilaterally by itself. Never forget. This is what the IDF and the Zionists are putting out. These are the talking points that the Wahhabis are also spreading. Adnan is also spreading. By the way, if it's sectarian, then why is the majority of Bashar al-Assad's army Sunnis? They're ethnically Sunni. They're from a Sunni background. Sunni Syrians are what are filling the ranks of the Assad army. So why aren't Sunnis actually responsible in part as well for the 600,000 death toll? This is a fact that's often left out. The majority of Bashar al-Assad's army, they were not Shia, and they were not Alawi. The top generals were Alawi, but the Alawi are not 12 or Shia. So you have a Bashar al-Assad secular Ba'athist regime, tyrannical, oppressive regime that mostly consists of Alawis in the top positions in the military and the government. And then the ranks are filled with Sunnis, Syrian Sunnis. And they're going and slaughtering, with the help of Russia and the help of Iran and Hezbollah, they're going and slaughtering other Syrian Sunnis, fighting this kind of war. So that when you give the full picture, when you give the context, then you can have a correct evaluation. And my evaluation is not that Iran is innocent. My evaluation is not that Iran did nothing wrong. And for having this position, you have Iranian spokespeople who attack me. They say Daniel is ignorant. Daniel is just a propagandist. He doesn't understand that our involvement in Syria was just to fight Daesh, just to fight ISIS. That's the only reason Iran got involved. Daniel is wrong. He's just a Sunni propagandist. I'm getting attacked on both sides. Why? Because my position is based on facts. It's based on objective history, not on the basis of sectarianism, not on the basis of a political agenda. My priority is the ummah and the interests of the ummah. That's why I'm objective, and I can look at all of the details and the facts and present it to you. Everything that I'm saying, go ahead and look it up. Go ahead and look it up. Go ahead and verify. I've debated it. I've posted all the resources. I've posted all the proof. Go ahead. Fact check me. And I'm challenging these Wahhabis to fact check me, to debate me. Debate me on this question. They refuse. Why? Because they can't argue in the face of facts. They will be exposed as propagandists.
After the US invasion of Iraq in 2003, Iran took control of Iraq from the US, and the rest is history. There are articles online. You can go and study what Shia death squads did in Iraq, wiping out Sunnis and driving out Sunnis from Baghdad. Also in Yemen, Iran.
So now let's talk about Iraq. Again, what kind of historian is this guy? He's saying, yeah, the history is there. You can read it. Go to articles. Well, how about you give us some facts? Give us some context. Give us the history of Iraq. All you're mentioning is, oh, there were Shia death squads killing Sunnis, and they were backed by Iran. So this is Iran. You can see they caused death and destruction in Syria. They're causing death and destruction in Iraq. So clearly Iran is the shaitan here, is the devil here. Give us a full history. What is the history of Sunni Shia in Iraq? Why don't you mention the fact that Saddam Hussein was also a brutal dictator? And he's Sunni. He's not Shi'i. He's a Sunni dictator. He's ethnically Sunni. We can call it ethnically Sunni because obviously he's not an orthodox Sunni Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Obviously, he is a deviant at best. He's a deviant at best. Because he's a Ba'athist. He's a Ba'athist secularist. He is imposing a secular regime on the Iraqi people. And then he engages in the massacre of 50,000 Shi'i Iraqis. 50,000 estimated Shi'i Iraqis, according to international estimates, human rights groups. He has slaughtered 50,000 Shi'i Iraqis, and he has murdered 100,000 Sunni Kurds in the north of Iraq. And he's displaced, Saddam Hussein displaced 500,000, 500,000 Shi'i Iraqis from the southern regions of Iraq and destroyed their homeland, destroyed the marsh territories of Iraq. And this is all reported on. And I've already discussed this in a debate that I had with two sectarians last year. And I presented some of this data. Let's look at Iraq. In the 1980s and 1990s, Saddam's Arab nationalist government killed 100,000 Sunni Kurds, 50 to 100,000 Shi'i Iraqis, and expelled more than 500,000 Shi'i Iraqis who were known as the Marsh Arabs. The source for this, Human Rights Watch and the European Union Agency for Asylum. This was reported on by the BBC. Iraq's devastated Marsh Arabs. The Marsh Arabs saw their centuries-old way of life destroyed, virtually destroyed under Saddam Hussein's regime. This is prior to the first Gulf War. So these are Muslims, Shia Muslims, that Saddam is mass slaughtering. Do you think this is relevant to what happened after 2003 with the Shia death squads? I'm not saying that death squads are justified or we have to support these Shia death squads and we should lay no blame on Iran. But Iran is acting in a larger context, and these Shia groups are acting in a larger context. If you want to blame Shia for killing Sunnis, then you should also blame Sunnis for killing Shia. And when you look at Iraq in specific, the amount on the Shia side in terms of death toll is much higher than the Sunni side, the non-Kurdish Sunni side, you could even say. So be just, be fair, present the whole history, present the whole story. Not this kind of, oh, yeah, Iran we're backing death squads. And do you know what those death squads did? Terrible things. These Shia death squads, and this is all because of Iran. Just go read it online for yourself. That's what Adnan does. He literally just waves his hand. He didn't even bother to mention ISIS. Is ISIS that originated from Iraq, is ISIS a Shia group? You think maybe the Shia death squads are responding to the ISIS death squads? The ISIS death squads that are going into Shia villages and massacring Shias? Do you think there's a response? Like, don't you think that there's more context to the dynamics between Shia and Sunni and sectarianism in Iraq that you could present to the Muslim ummah who don't know that history? Adnan deceives you. He does not present the history because he's a propagandist. He is a Wahhabi propagandist who's serving, whether knowingly or unknowingly, a Zionist agenda. That's the bottom line.
Iran's role has been very negative. Iran supplied Houthis with weapons and Saudi Arabia retaliated quite heavily, no doubt. There were many casualties. Hundreds of thousands of people suffered because of Iranian supply of weapons to the Houthis and Saudis retaliating.
This is his history of Yemen. Every other sentence from this guy is a lie. Every other sentence is a lie or a distortion or a deception. The way that he portrays it is that Iran supplied the Houthis with weapons, and then Saudi Arabia was forced to respond to the Houthis getting weapons from Iran, and then hundreds of thousands of people died. And therefore, this is all because of Iran. Iran should be saddled with or held responsible for these deaths of hundreds of thousands of Yemenis. According to Adnan, this is his history. If he were in a school, like even like a secondary school, not even a university, he would fail. He would flunk out of any history class if this is what he thinks is history. Let me give you the actual history of Syria, or Yemen rather. The Houthis have been a rebel faction far prior to Iran's involvement in Yemen. Far prior. And what's relevant for our timeline is that during the Arab Spring, the Houthis took the opportunity to protest and rebel against the government of Ali Abdullah Saleh, the president of Yemen. And their main grievance with Ali Abdullah Saleh is that he is coordinating with the United States and Israel. He is collaborating with the United States and Israel, and the United States and Israel are conducting drone strikes and killing the Yemenis. The United States and Israel are basically an occupying force over Yemen because of the complicity of the Yemeni government. So they protest this, and this is part of the larger Arab Spring. Then eventually this continues for years until 2014, when in September of 2014, the Houthis are able to seize the capital of Sana'a. They seize Yemen's capital, and they by that time the previous president Ali Abdullah Saleh has been deposed. Someone else has come into that position, and even his replacement is then deposed as the Houthis take over Sana'a. When they take over the capital, this is when Saudi decides to intervene. Saudi recognizes that the Arab Spring is a threat to the Gulf monarchies. The UAE recognizes that the Arab Spring is this existential threat to their Gulf monarchies. So around the Arab world, these Gulf monarchies have been quelling and trying to put down or trying to undermine the Arab Spring. They realize that the situation in Yemen has gotten out of hand. They need to come and back up the government and oppose the Houthis. So they create this Operation Decisive Storm. And they begin airstriking the Houthis. They begin a naval blockade of the Houthi ports, which are the main ports of Yemen. And it's this blockade in 2014 and 2015, end of 2014 and 2015, that causes the famine, that causes a lack of medical supplies, food getting into Yemen. And because of this, nearly 400,000 Yemenis die. Either they're killed in the conflict or by the airstrikes or by the civil war, or because they're starving because of famine, because of a Saudi-imposed blockade. And this Operation Decisive Storm, it's a coalition of Arab states. So it's not just Saudi. It's also Kuwait is involved with this. It's also UAE is involved with this. It's also Qatar is involved with this. And others. It's a coalition. And Saudi is the main party responsible. And it's at that time, in this time, at the end of 2014 and the beginning of 2015, that Iran starts backing the Houthis as a proxy. That's when Iran gets involved. So the rebellion was part of the Arab Spring. This rebellion was part of the Arab Spring that we see in Yemen. We also saw it in Tunisia. We saw it in Egypt. And we saw it in Syria. They were already part of this rebellion, this revolution happening in Yemen, and only later does Saudi get involved, and then later does Iran get involved. So it's not Iran that is causing this revolt or this rebellion. It's not Iran that is sparking this or triggering this. This is something that predates by decades. The Houthis have been in Yemen far before the Arab Spring and far before any kind of involvement from Iran, and they've always had this kind of militant streak. So, but Adnan ignores all of that context. He ignores all of that history. Why? Because he wants to deceive you. And then he attributes all of those deaths, which are much more plausibly we should attribute to Saudi Arabia. He attributes it to Iran. And this shows the dishonesty, actually, because this is exactly the opposite of what he does in the case of Syria. Now follow me here. In Syria, the government is the Bashar al-Assad government. In Yemen, it's the Ali Abdullah Saleh government. Okay, so those two are analogous, Bashar al-Assad and Saleh. In Syria and Yemen. In both countries, there is an Arab Spring. There is a protest that slowly becomes a rebellion. In both cases, they want to depose the government. And in both cases, international forces begin to get involved in support of the status quo, in support of the government. In Syria, in support of Bashar al-Assad. In Yemen, in support of Ali Abdullah Saleh and his government. In both cases. When it comes to Syria, Adnan takes the position of the rebels. He says these rebels are the ones who should be supported against Bashar al-Assad, the tyrant. But in the case of Yemen, he supports the status quo. He supports the government that's aligned with the United States and Israel. And he opposes the Houthi side. And he says that this side, they are causing the death and destruction. When it comes to Syria, when Iran gets involved on the side of the government to support the government of Bashar al-Assad, Adnan says that this is a crime, which it is, and all of the deaths in Syria are on the necks of the Iranians. But in the case of Yemen, when Saudi Arabia comes and supports the government of Yemen against the rebels, Adnan somehow still pins that on Iran. He somehow still pins it on Iran. He doesn't pin that. He doesn't say that this is the fault of Saudi Arabia and the coalition that causes this blockade, this naval blockade in the Red Sea that is causing mass famine in Yemen. So this is inconsistent. This is a blatant double standard from Adnan Rashid. It's dishonest and it's despicable. Like, he should be ashamed of himself for deceiving the Muslim masses, the audience that he has. They're being deceived. Like, he's blatantly lying to them. So he mentioned Syria. He mentioned Yemen. He mentioned Iraq. And I've summarized this kind of approach, the sectarian approach of Adnan, because this is the approach that all the Wahhabis take. If you want to accuse Iran of being such an evil force that can never be supported by any Muslim in the world, if that's the kind of approach you have, then you have to disqualify every Middle Eastern government. All of these states have to be disqualified and have to be seen as the enemies of Islam. Not only Iran, also Saudi Arabia, also the UAE, also Jordan, also Egypt, also Kuwait, also Qatar, also Sudan, also Libya, also Morocco. All of these governments, Algeria, all of these governments have blood on their hands. And in some cases, the death toll is quite high. In between 2003 and 2005, in Sudan, 300,000 Sunni Africans were killed by the Arab Sunni government. In Sudan, 300,000 massacre. This was just 20 years ago. Adnan will never mention this. He'll never lay blame on this because you can't somehow pin that on Iran. So that doesn't exist in Adnan's world, according to Adnan's history of the Middle East. Yemenis killed. We just talked about Yemen. Around 400,000 Yemenis killed. He doesn't place blame on the main actors that were inflicting that kind of suffering and killing on Yemen. The Shia Iraqis killed by Saddam, Sunni Saddam, right? He's Sunni, right? 50 to 100,000. The Sunni Kurds killed by Saddam, around 100,000. And then the 200,000 that the rebel factions in Syria killed. 200,000 were killed by these rebel factions who are also Sunni. The sectarians, the Wahhabis, they ignore all of this death and destruction. Why? Because they can't pin the blame on Iran. They only can cite the 400,000 killed by Bashar al-Assad and Russia and Iran and Hezbollah. This is only pay attention here. Only look at this number, this figure of 400,000, and attribute it all to Iran. Don't look at Bashar al-Assad's sectarian Ba'athist Alawi regime. Don't look at Russia. Just pin this all on Iran. Iran is the mastermind, basically. And then just lying about Yemen, lying about Iraq, doing context denial. This is called dishonesty. This is called dishonesty and blind sectarianism, and either he's an agent or he's mentally retarded.
All of these things are well known. These are not disputed things. About 1 million people have died due to Iranian intervention, direct Iranian intervention, propping up proxies in Yemen, in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, and even in Afghanistan. So Iran's role has been very, very damaging and devastating for the Muslims.
1 million people. Source, trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. Why even stop at 1 million? Why not just say it's been like 2 million, 3 million, 6 million Sunnis have been killed by the Iranian regime? Like, if we're just throwing out numbers, like, why make it just 1 million? Just go for the gold. It's actually 6, 7, 10 million. 10 billion Sunnis have been killed by Iran. Like, if this is the kind of history that you do, Adnan, it's just making up numbers, no actual statistics cited, no sources cited. So just go all the way. Why undersell it?
Muslims of the Middle East in particular, and other parts of the Muslim world in general. So why am I telling you all this? Does that mean we support Israel? Absolutely not. We abhor Israel, we abhor Israeli policies, we hate what Israeli government has done in Gaza and in the West Bank and around the region. Israeli government, the Zionists, have been behind most of Islamophobia in the Western world as well. Whatever comes from the media, mainstream media and the politicians, it is definitely instigated by the Zionist regime ruling from Israel. There's no doubt about that. We are very consistent when we condemn Israel for its crimes and when we condemn Iran for its crimes. What really hurts me is people out there who are trying to tell us that no, Iran is a Muslim country, Iranian regime, as bad as it is, as bad as it may be, is still a Muslim brother, so we have to stand with Iran.
Wait, so he's always ambiguous about this. Are Iranians Muslim or not? Earlier you said your heart goes out to them, but maybe your heart goes out to them in Iran like your heart goes out to the Hindus in India. So maybe you think that the Iranians, they're all mushriks and you takfir them, they're non-Muslims. Maybe. I couldn't get a clear answer. In some cases, I pressed him on this in the debate that we had, in the discussion that we had, and he seems to think that, no, the Shia, they're a different religion, they're not Muslim. They're not. So I think he does mass takfir the Shia. So this is an insane kind of view that he has. And again, he won't debate this.
I don't agree with that. I absolutely do not agree with that. Okay? And people are coming with another logic. They're saying Iran is the lesser of the two evils. They are both evil, the state of Israel and the state of Iran, not the people. We're not talking about the people. Okay? We're talking about the regimes. We're talking about the governments. That these two governments are absolutely evil, but one is less evil than the other. What standard are we using to judge these regimes? If it's the numbers, the amount of people that have been killed, Iran definitely outshines Israel. Iran definitely outshines Israel because...
Source, trust me, bro. Source, trust me, bro. Where is the evidence for this? He provides none.
Because the numbers killed by Iran in the last 20 years by 10 times outweigh the crimes Israelis have committed in the last 70 years. And I'm not making this up. Go and do your research. We have seen on Twitter, many people have posted research.
You see that? He's literally hand waving. Like, go do your research. Go. People on Twitter are posting. Go do your research. He's literally hand waving. You're making such a outrageous, extreme claim that Iran is responsible for 10 times the amount of death of Muslims than Israel is. This is a huge claim, and huge claims require huge evidence. Huge statistics, evidence to back up such an outrageous claim. But he's just go do your research. Go on and do your research where? Go on Twitter. Go on Twitter and do. Some people have posted. Go do your research. Is this serious? Like, you didn't have enough competence or respect for your audience to prepare some statistics, like crack open a book, maybe open up a Wikipedia article. He doesn't even have the wherewithal, the competence to do the most minimal amount to make it even seem like he knows what he's talking about. He can't even do that. He's just sitting there, turns on the camera, and when it actually comes to justifying his major claims, go do your research. Go on Twitter. You can see. This is so disrespectful to his audience. If I were an Adnan Rashid fan, I would really question his competence as a historian. I'd question his credibility, and I would be insulted that this is the way he treats me. Like, I'm sitting here to watch a video about this very important issue. There's a crisis happening in the ummah. We are facing an existential crisis, and I'm looking to someone to guide me, to give me an understanding of what's really happening on the ground. How should we understand this as Muslims? What should we understand of the future of the ummah? I'm looking to you, Adnan. You're a leader. You're a respected leader. Give me the information that I need. Give me the guidance that I need to navigate these turbulent waters. Just go check Twitter. Go. People have posted on Twitter. I'd be insulted. I would be ashamed to call myself an Adnan Rashid supporter or fan when this is the kind of disrespect and disregard that he has for me as his audience. He doesn't even have the respect to bring me a citation. This is shameful. This is shameful. You should not insult our intelligence by calling yourself a historian. This is completely unacceptable. If you were a high school student, an elementary school student, you'd fail. You'll flunk out with this kind of citation. Go check Twitter. So yeah, let's go check what he's posted on Twitter. And you'll see, first of all, he says, Syria was 10 times worse than Gaza. So this is slightly different, but related claims. Just Syria was 10 times worse than Gaza. What is the justification for this? Okay, just so we get a reminder, this is what Gaza looks like after, and this is not even 18 months. This is what Gaza looked like 6 months ago. So after only a year, Israel has completely leveled Gaza. And we have the Harvard report coming out that 377,000 Palestinians are missing in Gaza. They're unaccounted for. This just came out earlier this month in June. Now the number is probably close to 400,000. Nearly 1/5 or over 1/5 of the Palestinian population in just 12 months has been wiped out. 400,000 in just 12 months. The Syrian war was 14 years, 13 or 14 years total. And let's say just the first 10 years, most of the death toll in Syria was the first 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And the death toll on the Assad side was 400,000. So Israel has done in Gaza in 12 months what Bashar al-Assad and his coalition with Iran and Russia and Hezbollah were doing in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years' time. How is this 10 times worse? The math is not mathing, Adnan Rashid. Like, did you fail math class as well? You failed history class. Did you fail math class as well? Do you know how multiplication works? If 377,000 Palestinians in Gaza have been eliminated by Israel, then that means 10 times this number is 3.7 million Syrians must have been killed by Bashar al-Assad and Iran and Russia in Syria. Is that the case? Is that what you're really claiming? The math doesn't work, Adnan. Explain this. Explain this. And it's a really good thing that you will not agree to debate me and get on camera live to talk to me, because we'd laugh at you. Everyone is laughing at you. This is so shameful that you lie and exaggerate in this kind of way. We can't take you as an objective source of history or even basic data, basic statistics, like how many people have died in Gaza. You're minimizing Israel's crimes. Like what you're basically doing, you are minimizing Israel's crimes against the Palestinians to serve your sectarian agenda. This is what the Israelis are saying. This is what the Israeli ministers and government officials are saying. They're saying every child, every infant in Gaza is an enemy. Every child you're giving milk to today will slaughter your children in 15 years. Gaza must be occupied and settled. They're openly advocating genocide and killing women and children and infants. Is 10 times worse than this found by the Iranian government? Has the Iranian government said anything like this about Syrians or about Sunnis? Officials like this, when we see Benjamin Netanyahu say, remember Amalek, when Smotrich and Ben Gavir say we need to wipe them out, when the former defense minister says that these are human animals, the Palestinians are human animals, and we're justified in anything that we do to them, starving them to death. You're comparing these people to Iran, to the Iranian government? Justify it. Give us some kind of research, some kind of data to sink our teeth into. And then this is what he's also posted on Twitter. This is his data. For those who love Grok, he says. So this is the screenshot that he shares. Grok, which nation? Grok is this AI from Twitter, Elon Musk's AI called Grok, and you can ask it questions. And so people on Twitter are asking Grok, which nation has killed more Muslims, Iran or Israel? One word, please. And Grok says Iran, and Adnan says, checkmate. Checkmate, Iran has killed more. So Iran is 10 times worse, 10 times more evil than Israel. Checkmate, Grok has said it. Grok in one word. Only give us one word answers, by the way. We can't read paragraphs or sentences. Just give us one word. It's Iran. So this was so easy to respond to. I did my own test. Here's Grok. And I asked Grok, the AI, rank the following countries according to how many Muslims they've killed historically. Make a table with the country name and the number of Muslims killed in the second column between Israel, Pakistan, Saudi, Turkey, and Iran. So Grok ranks it and says Pakistan has killed the most Muslims. Number 1 is Pakistan. Number 2 is Turkey, then Iran, then Saudi, and then, at the very bottom of the list is Israel. Israel has killed fewer Muslims than Pakistan and Turkey, Iran, Saudi Arabia, these bloodthirsty regimes. Israel has killed far fewer. I wonder who's programming Grok. I wonder who's programming ChatGPT. Let's put that aside. But according to the AI, the same AI that Adnan appeals to as his authority, Grok puts Pakistan and Turkey ahead of Iran. So if there was a war between Israel and Pakistan, according to Adnan Rashid's Wahhabi principles, we should be neutral. We should be neutral because Pakistan has killed more than 10 times the number of Muslims than Israel. So we should be neutral in that conflict. Pakistan has killed so many Muslims in Bangladesh, for example, not to mention internal conflict. Pakistan has killed hundreds of thousands, maybe a million, over a million, according to Grok. So if Israel decides to attack Pakistan, stay neutral. Stay neutral. You can't support Pakistan. And by the way, Pakistanis are grave worshippers. Wahhabis do mass takfir on Pakistan. Many Wahhabis, not all of them. Some of them are not consistent or they're too embarrassed, so they practice taqiyya. So they don't mass takfir Pakistan. Only when they're oppressed will they say, yeah, Pakistan is full of grave worshippers because they don't accept the tawheed of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. They're grave worshippers. So if Israel attacks, it's actually better. We want Israel to win in an attack on Pakistan. In a war between Israel and Pakistan, we support Israel because of those Pakistani grave worshipping mushriks, murtads. They're worse. They are worse than the Ahlul Kitab. So of course we support Israel. And by the way, Pakistan has killed more Muslims than good old Israel. You can already see the Wahhabi arguments. Adnan's, and this is the inconsistency, this is the low IQ. Someone like Adnan and some of his followers, they're too low IQ to think of the implications of their argument. The argument that they're using against Iran, if you applied it to Pakistan or Turkey or even Saudi Arabia, your conclusion would be or should be that Muslims are neutral in a war between Israel and Pakistan, Israel and Turkey, Israel and Saudi Arabia. We have to be neutral. Or even we have to support the Israeli side, according to your principles. Since they are too low IQ to see the implications of their argument, they are not ashamed to put out this argument against Iran. But people who have more than 2 brain cells, they have more than a double-digit IQ, or even people who do have a double-digit IQ can see that this is a wrong principle that they're using. It has these bad consequences in other cases other than Iran. So am I making sense? Like, I hope my audience is following. I hope you all, I think most of you get it. I think only you have to just be a Wahhabi bot, literally sitting in Tel Aviv, for you not to understand and follow this logic. If Israel attacks Pakistan, of course the ummah has to stand behind Pakistan. If Israel attacks Turkey, of course the ummah has to stand behind Turkey. The Wahhabis don't agree. And we pointed out in the Wahhabism documentary how the Saudis in the 20th century, in World War I, they backed the British against the Ottoman Caliphate. And this was their logic. The Turks are not even Muslim. The Ottoman Turks, they're kafir murtads. Mushrik murtads. They are worse than the British. The British are Ahlul Kitab, so we side with the British. And I show you the fatwa and translate the fatwa in the documentary of Ibn Sahman, one of the highest Wahhabi authorities, Saudi authorities of the time, giving this fatwa, telling Muslims we need to support the British over the Ottoman Khilafah, the Caliphate. And if you ask from a traditional Sunni Orthodox perspective, was the Ottoman Caliphate in the 20th century, were they the most Orthodox Muslims? No, they had deviant beliefs. They had wrong beliefs and wrong practices. That doesn't mean we support the British against them. But the Wahhabis, they say, no, they're not deviants. They're kafir, mushrik, murtads. And they're worse than Ahlul Kitab. And this is why the Wahhabis have always sided with the colonizer. They've always sided with the Zionists. They have been instrumental to the establishment of the Zionist state at the end of World War II with the World War I with the Balfour Declaration, and then the end of World War II with the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. Wahhabis and the Saudi Arabia has been central to this Zionist project. And to this day, in 2025, 75 years later, they're still using the same lines, using the same logic, using the same propaganda. So if you didn't believe Grok, ChatGPT, another AI, says the same thing. Pakistan has killed way more Muslims than Israel. Turkey has killed way more Muslims than Israel. Saudi has killed way more Muslims than Israel. And Iran has killed more than Israel. This is the ranking from ChatGPT. Go ahead, you put in the same prompt. Put in this exact prompt that I put, and you can see the numbers yourself. And again, I posted these screenshots, and I said, take the numbers with a grain of salt. That's not the point. The point is that Adnan and the Wahhabis are citing AI for their stupid argument. So, okay, we'll just use the same tool. And once you include the entirety of the context and you look at the whole scope of the question, how many Muslims have any of these regimes actually killed? Then you see that Iran is not unique. Iran is not this uniquely evil force. All of these countries have blood on their hands. Now, again, 10 times worse. This is also numbers that we have to look at. What is the amount of death and destruction caused by Israel? Go to Brown University Cost of War Project. I always cite this because it's an authoritative source of data. Brown University, Ivy League university, and they have reports. And I'm only sharing you like the bottom line of these reports, the headline of these reports, but you can go and see the kind of data that they have collected and the methods that they use. But Brown University Cost of War Project with the Watson Institute for International and Public Affairs says that the number of people killed indirectly in post 9/11 war zones. So indirectly means they have been starved to death. They lacked medical supplies because of war. They have died indirectly, including Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen are estimated at 3.6 to 3.8 million. Though the precise figure remains unknown, this is the estimate, 3.6 to 3.8 million. This brings the estimated total direct and indirect deaths to 4.5 to 4.7 million. That's the total. Since when? Since 9/11. So just 24 years. In these countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, who is the main instigator of the war on terror? Number one is the United States, and arguably, which country has been pushing the United States into nonstop wars in the Middle East? It's been Israel. It's been the Israeli lobby. It's been the Zionists. And we explained this on the previous stream, why Israel does this. This is the strategic objective of Israel through things like the Yemen plan to destroy all of these Muslim countries in the Middle East to secure the future of the Israeli state. This is the entire Zionist project, is to destroy these countries and eventually expand into greater Israel. and using the United States as the tool, as the weapon to do this mass ethnic cleansing. We've explained the history of this in the previous live stream, so you can go and check that out. Haqiqatjou episode 63, I believe. But this is 4.5 to 4.7 million, and 38 million Muslims have been made refugees. They've been displaced from their homes. Where? In Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Somalia. In the Middle East. Sudan is not even included in this. What about Sudan? All of this can plausibly be attributed to Israel. What is Adnan Rashid and the Wahhabis' answer to this? Do they even have an answer? Or are they going to continue to pretend like this data does not exist? Are you telling me that Iran has 10 times more killing and destruction than this? Iran has killed 40 million Muslims? 45 million Muslims? Is that really what you're claiming? Or are you more authoritative and you've done more research than Brown University, Ivy League school in the United States? They've published entire reports, peer-reviewed reports that you can access for free online. You're telling me that you know more than Brown University? Or are you really suggesting that Iran has killed 10 times more? 45 million Muslims have been killed by Iran. Is that really what you're claiming? I'm speechless. I don't know what to say to someone who would seriously suggest this. And the thing is that Muslims don't need to do this research to know. Like, Muslims have been seeing on their feed for the past 18 months the types of crimes and atrocities that Israel is committing. The type of slaughter. How many dead babies do you need to see? How many mutilated, dismembered, headless, decapitated Palestinian babies do you need to see before you realize that Israel is the greatest threat? Israel is the greatest killer of Muslims in the Middle East. That's, according to Adnan, that's all just a show. That's all. You're being deceived. Like, yeah, it looks bad, but actually Iran is much worse. You have no idea what Iran has. What Iran is doing is 10 times worse. It's 10 times more evil than what you're seeing. Okay, Adnan. Okay, if you say so. It's apparently a big conspiracy theory. Isn't it? What other explanation is there, Adnan? Muslims don't even need to know what the cost of war project from Brown University is. They can just see that Israel is so much worse, that Israel is such a greater threat. They can see the statements of the politicians coming from Israel calling for the genocide of Muslims. They can see that. They can read the Talmud. They can read the Old Testament. And they can see all the genocidal statements contained in those religious texts. The Muslims are aware. It's only you, Adnan. It's only you, the Wahhabis, who want to perpetrate this hoax that Iran is somehow 10 times worse than this. And here is the propaganda coming from the IDF. You have this Lieutenant Aviche Adre. He's the Arabic spokesperson, and on Twitter, he's been posting nonstop about Iran. If I didn't show you the name and the IDF affiliation, you might think that this is Adnan Rashid posting this. Arabs, don't forget, the one who killed the children of Syria, displaced its people, and destroyed its towns, cities, and villages is the Iranian regime. This is the chutzpah. This is the hypocrisy, the audacious hypocrisy of the IDF. The crimes that they're committing on Palestinians, they're the ones who are mass slaughtering the Palestinian children, and it's all captured. Even their own soldiers are recording themselves doing this kind of killing and massacres of the Palestinians. They have the chutzpah to say, no, Iran is the bigger threat to you Sunni Arabs, to you Sunnis. This is what Adnan Rashid shares. Like, Adnan Rashid has the same exact talking points as the IDF.
And statistics, you can confirm that very easily. Okay, so what am I trying to say? I'm saying the Muslims should not become a party to this conflict. We should not support either of the sides. Okay, we should not support them. Iran has committed more criminal damage against the Muslims than the Israelis, have no doubt, but both are as evil as each other. This is my opinion. Okay, now this doesn't.
He's contradicting himself in the same statement. Iran has undoubtedly committed more damage, more crimes, but they're equal. That doesn't make sense. Even I can tell my 7-year-old, if you have two numbers and one number is greater than the other, are they equal? No, Dad, that's a contradiction. No, Baba, that's a contradiction. One number is greater than the other number, so they're not equal. They're not equal. He wants to say that Iran has done 10 times more damage, killed 10 times more Muslims than Israel, but they're equal. We should stay neutral. This is a contradiction. If Iran is actually 10 times worse than Israel, then of course we should side with Israel. Of course we should side with Israel and support their attack against Iran. That's the logical. Hamas and the Palestinian resistance groups, why are they wasting time fighting Israel? What Hamas needs to do and the Palestinian resistance needs to do is they need to reach out to the IDF and say, we want to side with you against Iran. Let's send us, the Palestinians to go and fight Iran. Because as Adnan Rashid, the brilliant historian and debater, has pointed out, Iran is 10 times worse for the Muslims than you, the IDF, the Zionist regime. Yeah, IDF, you're pretty bad. You've been genociding us for 75 years. You did the Nakba. You terrorized us. You committed all kinds of rape and murder against us. But the Iranians, they're 10 times worse. I just saw on YouTube, Adnan Rashid. On Twitter, I see Adnan Rashid, the brilliant historian with all kinds of facts and figures. He told me to look at Twitter, and I was convinced that Iran is the threat. So no, IDF, I don't want to fight you. I want to hold hands with you so that we can go after the greater threat of Iran. So Adnan is too stupid to recognize this contradiction. He's too stupid to understand that he's backed himself into this corner. He's trying to have it both ways. He wants to launch this propaganda as a reaction. What Adnan Rashid sees is that the Muslims around the world are rallying behind Iran against Israel, and he is reacting to this. He has to react in a proportionate way. So because there's such a positive reaction to Iran from the Sunni masses around the world, he is matching that with an equally major accusation against Iran. No. You're supporting Iran? They're 10 times worse than Israel. He is matching the energy in order to counteract the Sunni support for Iran. But that counter reaction leads him to a logical conclusion that he can't accept, or he can't openly accept. If Iran is 10 times worse than Israel, then we should support Israel. We should be supporting Israel in its war against Iran. But he's too much of a coward to actually articulate that conclusion. He can't articulate it, so he has to pretend like he has to speak out of both sides of his mouth and say that, oh, Iran is 10 times worse, but they're also equal. And that's why we have to be neutral. This makes no logical sense.
Doesn't mean we support Israel or we support Western foreign policies, we support Western interventions. No. If anything is going to change in Iran, it should come from the people of Iran. The people of Iran should decide what happens in their country, not Israel, not Western powers, not the US. We condemn every single action the Western governments or the Israelis take against the Iranian people. Absolutely.
Why? The Western governments and Israel, they want to topple the Iranian government. According to you, isn't that going to help the Iranian government? They're taking out the criminal regime, as you call them, who are 10 times worse than Israel, as you claim. So Israel is doing a service from your perspective to the Iranian people by taking out the government. So by your logic, we should support Israel in their war against Iran. We should support the United States in this war against Iran. That's the logic of your statements.
absolutely we condemn. Okay, we do not want the Iranian people to suffer. They are innocent of the crimes of the government. Okay, so this is a very, very clear distinction I am making specifically.
Okay, Adnan, here's a question for you. If we were in a debate, I'd ask you this, I'd put you on the spot and I'd force you to answer. If the Iranian people are innocent, what about the Israeli people? Are the Israeli people equally innocent as the Iranian people? Yes or no? Answer that. He'll be forced to say, no, of course, the Israelis are not innocent. In fact, when you look at the statistics, they are very much in favor of genociding the Palestinians and ethnically cleansing them. So the Israeli society is complicit in the crimes of the Israeli government. They are supporting Netanyahu all the way, and many of them think that Netanyahu hasn't gone far enough in eliminating the Palestinian problem. So Adnan will have to agree that Israeli society is worse than Iranian society. Okay, if that's the case, then if the two countries are at war, if Israel is going to war with Iran and you're siding with the Iranian people, wouldn't that mean that you want Iran to win? Wouldn't that mean you want Iran to win that war and to resist the aggression from the Israeli side? Isn't that the obvious logical conclusion of that? How would you answer that, Adnan? I'm just taking your statements that you're making. You had time to prepare and make these statements. You edited the video, you released it. So everything that you're saying here these are your actual views. I'm just taking your actual statements, your actual views, and I'm just drawing the direct implication, the direct logical implication, and showing you that this leads to a bad result. This leads to a contradiction, or this leads to something so offensive and so outrageous, like Muslims need to be supporting Israel. I want to know your answer, Adnan.
Because I've been very vocal on Twitter lately, now called X. I've been very vocal on this, right? And there are a lot of people disagreeing with me, and there's no problem with that. Okay, I respect their disagreements. I respect their views. I don't have to agree with them. I don't have to...
You respect them? Then why are you calling them Rafida shills? You're calling them Rafida shills. Where's the respect? You're saying that they're just secret Shi'is who are pretending to be Sunnis, and that's why they're disagreeing with you. And that's the top comment on this video. I'll show you. He's saying that you are Rafida shills. If you go here, says most comments are by Rafida shills, either pretending to be Sunnis or from anonymous accounts. So if you look at the comments, all the top comments are against him. So at least good on him. He's not deleting comments, so good job. But all of them are saying, you're wrong. We stand with Iran. Why are you distorting the history? What about the UAE? Like all of these comments. And a lot of them are from his fans saying that I used to be a fan. I used to trust you, but this is unacceptable. He just says that you're Rafida shills. You're pretending to be Sunni. Is that the respect that you're talking about, Adnan, when you say you're going to respect?
Accept their views. So this is a very polarizing issue, no doubt. But don't forget that the crimes Iran committed in Syria cannot be forgotten so easily. You can't just dismiss those crimes and say, oh, these are brothers. Yes, they are bad. They committed crimes. But remember, there were mass graves in Syria. People were buried alive in Syria. Okay? Barrel bombs were dropped on densely populated areas in Syria. Hundreds of thousands of people driven out of their homes just because they were Sunnis. This was a sectarian war waged by Iran and its militias against the Sunni population of Syria that wanted to topple a tyrant, an oppressor, a dictator called Bashar al-Assad, who was directly backed by Iran and its proxies.
Yeah, complete distortion. If they were being killed just because they were Sunnis, the Assad army was majority Sunni. The Sunni population in Syria was split. There was the pro-Bashar side and the anti-Bashar side. The Sunnis were split. And it was, in many cases, Sunnis killing other Sunnis. This is not to deny the responsibility of Iran and Hezbollah and Shi'is. but you are doing context denial. You are deceiving your audience. You are not presenting an accurate history of the Syrian conflict, the Syrian revolution, to serve your sectarian propaganda purposes in a direct service of the Zionist agenda.
Iranian intervention kept Bashar in power for 10 more years to inflict more damage to the people of Syria. Don't forget this, okay? There were torture cells. People were tortured to death in Syria, okay? The crimes that were committed in Syria are yet to be committed by the Zionist regime, okay?
The crimes committed in Syria, so he mentioned what? He mentioned bombing, he mentioned torture and imprisonment. Israel hasn't committed these crimes against the Palestinians? What world are you living in? Do you even follow any of the news? Like, do you see what's happening in Gaza? All of Gaza has been leveled. 90% of the buildings in Gaza have been destroyed through mass bombing, carpet bombing. By the hundreds, Palestinians are being blown away with bombs that are much more powerful than anything that Bashar al-Assad had access to from Iran or from Russia. So what are you talking about? And then torture? What do you think is happening to the over 9,000 Palestinian political prisoners that are being tortured every day, gang raped on camera every day that we see coming out of Israel? So this is, when you are a sectarian, you are blinded. You cannot see the reality because you are so blinded by a sectarian hatred. This is not what Islam calls to. Orthodox Sunnism, Orthodox Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah says that yes, the Shia are a deviant sect, but they're Muslim. This is the consensus of scholars past and present. Major scholars have said that the Shia, the 12er Shia, are Muslim, including Ibn Taymiyyah, including Imam Ghazali, including the later Hanafi jurists like Ibn Abidin. They have said that the 12er Shia are Muslims, but they are deviant. And when it comes to a conflict, a war between the kuffar, the non-Muslims, and the deviant Muslims, we back, as Sunnis, we back the deviant Muslims, including the 12er Shia. This is the position of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But Wahhabi propagandists and other sectarians do not want you to know this truth, so they lie about it. They lie about it and they spread this propaganda to deceive you about what Sunnism actually is. They present Wahhabism as Sunnism when this is false. The kind of Wahhabism that makes takfir of the Shia also makes takfir of the Ash'aris and the Maturidis. Any non-Wahhabi Sunni is also considered a kafir mushrik according to the Wahhabi ideology. And I pressed Adnan on this in our debate. In our debate, I said, what do you think about the Ash'aris? What do you say about the Maturidis? Are they Ahlul Bid'ah? And he essentially said yes. He was squirming. He was trying to get out of it. He was trying to avoid answering this question. But he affirmed they're deviant. They're deviant. And other Wahhabis will go the full Monty. They'll say, no, actually, Ash'aris and Maturidis, they're kafir mushriks. They're grave worshippers. They're Jahmis. They deny the sifat of Allah. Like Jake, for example, who has that infamous tweet. We also showed that on the documentary. We said, yeah, they're kafir. Ash'aris and Maturidis are kafir. And if they have no excuse for ignorance, then they should be put to death. That's the authoritative position of the Hanbali school, Jake claims. Jake, the friend of Adnan. So they hide that part of Wahhabism when they're talking to Sunnis because they want to just agitate against Iran for their Zionist purposes. But they hide the full context, which is that according to the Wahhabi principles, all non-Wahhabis, whether Sunni or Shia, are kafir mushriks. Adnan he leaves that part out. He doesn't talk about that part. It's not convenient at this time when all hands on deck against Iran.
They may have committed these crimes too, but the magnitude is far greater. What happened in Syria was far greater than what happened in Gaza. Yes, Gaza is absolutely devastated. Gaza is a travesty. It is a catastrophe. And it is a slap in the face of the notion of global justice or international justice. It doesn't exist. There is no justice in this world when we look at Gaza and the people of Gaza and their suffering. Okay? So I just wanted to clarify my position on this. Okay? There are a lot of people questioning me on why am I not condemning Saudi Arabia? Why am I not condemning UAE? Where is the comparison? Why do we start with lesser catastrophes instead of discussing the elephant in the room, as they say? There are two elephants.
How are they lesser catastrophes when we talk about the hundreds of thousands killed in Iraq by Sunnis, when we talk about the hundreds of thousands killed in Yemen due to a Saudi blockade, 400,000 in Yemen? That's comparable. That's comparable to the amount of Syrians killed by the Assad coalition, Assad, Russia, Iran coalition in Syria. It was also 400,000. So it's comparable. Why can't you talk about Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia, why not? Let's talk about Sudan. Let's talk about the mass killing that the Gulf monarchies are supporting in Sudan up to this day. Up to this day, and even going back 20 years ago. This is not irrelevant. It's extremely relevant. It's extremely relevant. We're taking your standard that you're using against Iran, and we're just asking, well, that standard, if you apply it to Saudi, if you apply it to the UAE, if you apply it to Pakistan, if you apply it to Turkey, if you apply it to all these other Muslim countries and their governments, the logic would be we should be neutral if Israel fights Saudi, if Israel attacks Pakistan, if Israel attacks Turkey, if Israel attacks the Gulf. We also have to be neutral according to your standard, according to your logic, because the death toll is equivalent. All of these regimes have blood on their hands. And by the way, you say that the government of Iran is deviant or their Islam is questionable. What about the governments of these other countries? The governments of these other countries are also deviant from the perspective of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. These aren't Sunni governments. Maybe they're Sunni ethnically, but they're not Sunni according to the standards of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Many of these countries are secular. Many of these countries have adopted secular policies, and they've abolished or they have not applied other aspects of the Sharia. So they're also deviant governments. They're also deviant, at best deviant. Apply your standards consistently, Adnan. Wahhabis, apply your standards consistently.
In the room called the Middle East, that there are two elephants, Israel and Iran. Let's start with the elephants and then we start making our way down, okay? Yeah, this whataboutery is an evidence, or it's an indicator of people's injustice when it comes to Iran. They deliberately want to downplay the crimes Iran has committed against the Muslim people in the Middle East. Okay? Because the moment we mention the crimes of Iran, this whataboutery exercise starts. What about this country? What about that country? What about that group? What about this group? What do you mean, what about if you mentioned the crime?
What do you mean? We're just holding you accountable to your standard. It's just very hypocritical that you have one standard for Iran and then you have another standard for other countries. This is a basic, this is like an IQ test. Someone who has a minimal amount of IQ, if you tell them a standard for judging Iran or judging the conflict between Iran and Israel, if you give them a standard, they're naturally going to want to know if that standard is universally applicable. Does it apply to other conflicts? Does it apply to other countries? Someone with an average or above average IQ is naturally going to ask that question. But Adnan, because that question destroys Adnan's position and shows that his principle is not worth the paper that it's written on, he wants you to not ask those questions. And if you ask them, that's whataboutery. This is whataboutery. Don't ask about other countries. Don't ask about Saudi. Don't ask about Saddam Hussein. Don't ask about Libya or Egypt or UAE. Don't ask about anyone else. This is intellectually dishonest at best.
Crimes of Israel to me, the Zionist crimes in Gaza. And I said, what about Mexican drug cartels? What about all the drug dealers in Sao Paulo? Or what about those gangsters in Rio de Janeiro? What about all those guys? Okay, you'll think I've lost my mind. Why am I talking about all these people when the point of discussion is Israel and the Israeli crimes? So you really have to wait.
If I don't even understand this analogy. Like, if the Brazilian drug cartels were also on the verge of genociding millions of Muslims for a greater project, like a greater Israel project, something analogous to that, it would be absolutely relevant to bring them into the conversation. It would be absolutely relevant to look at what kinds of crimes that they've committed against Muslims, if they were involved with any. But Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Saddam Hussein, all these other Sunni governments have also done comparable things as Iran. So it is relevant. And how dare you tell us that it's not relevant? How stupid do you think we are?
Wake up and start thinking clearly. Okay? People are asking me, what if Iran is defeated and Israel dominates the region? Okay? I don't think that will ever happen after Gaza. Israel will never gain more territory in the Middle East. Israel has completely lost its support in the West and in the East. No one is going to support Israel now and its policies. Okay, Israel is not going to recover from the genocide it committed in Gaza. Israel is not going to get more territory in the Middle East, inshallah. The Israeli regime is on its way to fall. It is.
How are they on their way to fall? Who's going to stop them? The one country that does have the ability and has demonstrated the ability to cause them damage is Iran. And you're saying that we shouldn't be in favor of that. We shouldn't be in favor of that government or that country. So who's going to stop Israel from this genocide? Who's going to stop is this is how stupid this guy is. The fact that Israel has committed a genocide against the Palestinians, this is proof that they are about to fall. The fact that Israel has successfully is on the way to be successful in genociding and ethnically cleansing the Palestinians, this is proof that they're going to fall any moment now. How does this make sense? While Adnan is spewing this nonsense, guess what Israel is doing? They're expanding into southern Lebanon. They're expanding into southern Syria. They are striking Syrian cities like Damascus. Just yesterday, there was another major strike against Damascus or another Syrian city. They're expanding into the West Bank. They're taking more and more territory. And Adnan is saying, inshallah, they won't succeed. They won't take any more land, inshallah. What kind of analysis is this? What kind of history is this? You don't even know what's happening on the current daily news. Who's going to stop Israel, Adnan? If Iran is taken out, who's going to stop Israel? Who's going to do it? Who is going to pose a meaningful deterrent to Israel? That is a question that he can't answer. The thing about real Sunni Muslims who are looking at the situation, we judge their current reality and try to predict the future outcomes based on facts, based on a pattern of history. It's not wishful thinking. We look at what's happening. We look at the geopolitical forces at play. We bring data to bear. We bring statistics to bear to come to conclusions. It's not just wishful thinking. It's not just this type of nonsense prognostication on the basis of sectarian hate. That's all we can expect from someone like Adnan or any of these Wahhabis that you see on social media.
Going to fall. So will the Iranian regime. And we hope for the best for the Iranian people. They need to take control of the situation. We don't want Western nations imposing their order, their puppets on the Iranian people. Rather, the Iranian people decide themselves what happens to their country. This is my view.
What about the people of Saudi Arabia? Do they get the right to choose what happens in their country? All of the Wahhabi allies, the Wahhabi Madkhali allies of Adnan, looks like he's agitating for popular unrest in Iran. Does he have the same standard for Saudi? Does he have the same standard for the UAE or Qatar or Kuwait or Egypt or any of these other countries? Does he have the same standard? Should the people in those countries decide the government that they want? Again, I'm taking your standard, Adnan, and I'm asking you about these different countries. If we were in a debate, I would force you to answer, and you'd have to, spin in your chair and look like an idiot because you couldn't answer this question. You can't be consistent. You would know that you'd get in trouble with your handlers or with your Wahhabi Medkhali allies like Farid. You can take smiling selfies with someone like Farid, a Medkhali like Farid, but you're calling for popular uprising in a Muslim country or in another Middle Eastern country. So this is inconsistent from you.
I know there are more questions you may have. I've been answering some of them on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter and check out some of the tweets. I've been answering a lot of questions there. And if there are more concerns I want to share, I will share in the future. But for now, take no sides in this. Take no sides in this, okay? We want the Zionist regime to fall. We want the mullah regime in Iran also to fall because they are both criminal regimes and they are both bombing each other, okay? We don't need to cheer for any of them. We don't. Thank you so much for listening. Assalamu alaikum.
So again, according to that standard, why can't you want the Saudi regime to fall? Why not have a true Islamic government or the UAE regime or the Algerian regime or the whatever? We want them all to fall by this standard. That's not what I want. I don't want mass chaos in the Muslim world by all of these governments being toppled by Israel and being controlled by Israel. That's not what I want. I can recognize that these governments are not orthodox Sunni governments, and they have many deviances, and they have many crimes against Muslims. But the alternative of them all collapsing and there being non-stop civil war in the Muslim world is much, much worse, especially when you have the engine driving this chaos is Israel and the United States for their own purposes, to dominate the Muslim world and to eliminate Islam and to occupy not only Masjid al-Aqsa, but also the Hijaz, also Mecca and Medina. That is their plan. That is a much worse situation than if that's the alternative, then fine, I will accept having corrupt governments, having a Iranian government, a Shia Iranian government, a Saudi monarchical government, corrupt government that also is implementing secularism and is liberalizing the country. That is a better alternative than having nonstop civil war, all of these governments collapsing. I can make that kind of pro and con calculation while also acknowledging the ideal. What's the ideal? Khilafah. That is the Islamic Sunni ideal that the Wahhabis don't accept, by the way. At least not the Madkhali and the Haddadi types of Wahhabis. But the ideal of the Khilafah, that is the Sunni ideal. That is what I want. But how do you get to that ideal? And how do you judge the current situation and what's going on with the world and the kinds of challenges and threats that we are facing today? If you don't have the IQ, like, you can't think in this way. You just say, no, Daniel, the ideal is Khilafah. End of conversation. Oh, wow. Brilliant point. I didn't know that. Brilliant. Yeah, okay. The ideal is Khilafah. Yes, we know that. What about our current situation? What is happening now? What are the actual obstacles that we have now? What are the challenges that we face now? What are the existential threats that we face now? And what is the best in this current situation? What is the best that can be attained? What is the best that is feasible? Yes, I support Khilafah, but what about tangibly, what can be done and supported? What can be advocated now for the situation now? You have to have a certain level of basic common sense to be able to understand what I'm saying. But yeah, so that's Adnan Rashid. Now, Adnan Rashid, today there's a video. He's going and talking to a couple of Deobandis, and they're having this nice little podcast with a group of Deobandis. Talking about how the Shia are all kuffar the Shia, and I think I haven't listened to the whole podcast, but I think they kind of weasel their way out from mass takfir. They say, no, we're not talking about the lay Iranians who don't know anything about Shiism. They're Muslim, but the rest of the Shia, they're all kuffar. And they make the kinds of arguments that I addressed 6 months ago, that I addressed in the debate that I had on this question of, are the Shia Muslims? They can't even address those points. They just have to regurgitate the types of arguments that I've already refuted. But what's interesting to me about Adnan as a Wahhabi going and sitting with two Deobandis, Maturidi Deobandis, and he calls them Sheikh, my beloved Sheikh. Whoa. Adnan, why are you going and sitting with the Maturidis? They're on the wrong Aqidah, and you consider them to be deviant. You consider Maturidis to be deviant or to be upon deviance, as you revealed and you explained in the debate or discussion that we had. You consider them to be deviant. You're going and discussing Aqidah with them. You're going and discussing and agreeing with them and saying, my Sheikh, he's your Sheikh, a Deobandi. Isn't this what Jake and Farid were attacking me for? Didn't they say that Daniel is deceiving his audience because he works with Deobandis and he promotes Deobandis and he says he's a fan boy of Deobandis? Didn't your buddy Jake say that this shows that Daniel is a liar and a grifter? Isn't that the proof, one of the proofs that they used, or to claim that I am a deviant, that I am upon kufr, because I consider the Ash'aris and the Maturidis and the Atharis to be all within Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah? Isn't Jake the one who said that this is deviance and this is why Daniel is a deviant upon kufr? Isn't that what Jake said? So I wonder, is Jake going to be consistent and call out Adnan for going to the Deobandis and calling them Sheikh, my beloved Sheikh? How can a Deobandi Maturidi be the Sheikh of Wahhabi Adnan? That's question number one. Question number two, why are these Deobandis bringing on a Wahhabi Salafi who is associated with Ahlul Hadith? The Ahlul Hadith movement. And I posted, like, there is not, we shouldn't consider the Ahlul Hadith to be Wahhabis. The Ahlul Hadith history within the subcontinent is not like the Wahhabi history in the Arabian Peninsula. The Ahlul Hadith actually did fight the British. The Ahlul Hadith actually did prefer the Muslims and allying with the Muslims over the British. Unlike the Wahhabis did the opposite. They allied with the British against the Muslims, against the Ottomans. The Ahlul Hadith should not be categorized as Wahhabis. Nonetheless, Adnan has that kind of background. You're bringing him on to talk to him about Aqidah? That's interesting. And in this discussion, it's funny. I didn't watch the whole thing because it just came out. I didn't have time to go through the whole hour and a half. But in this discussion, Adnan brings a fatwa of 100 scholars who say that in this war between Iran and Israel, the Muslims, the Sunni Muslims, should be neutral. Now, who are these scholars? No one has ever heard of them. No one has ever heard of who these people are, other than maybe the Wahhabis. Like, you go to the organization, this Rabita of ulama, you go to their official YouTube page, they don't even have 300 subscribers on their channel. No one knows who these people are, but they have a fatwa. And now and Adnan is spreading this fatwa. Okay, these scholars, they're Salafi. They're غير مقلد. They don't follow a madhab. Why are the Deobandi shuyukh here, the Maulanas, why are they bringing Adnan to sit there on their podcast and promote the fiqh, the fatwa of these غير مقلد, non-Hanafi, non-Deobandi ulama? Why? Isn't this inconsistent? And you can see that they're very uncomfortable. While Adnan is promoting this fatwa, you can see that they're uncomfortable. The tension is palpable. But these are the inconsistencies. And then when we actually look at the leadership of the Deobandis today in the world, they are saying we need to side with Iran. Look at this. This is from Mufti Taqi Uthmani, putting out this statement in Urdu, translated. Despite suffering heavy losses from Israeli aggression, Iran is responding strongly to Israel. It is learning for the first time what bombing is. Its intentions against the Islamic world are not hidden. This is another opportunity from God for all Muslim countries to unite and completely counter the Israeli threat. There you go. This is from arguably the highest Deobandi authority in the world, Mufti Taqi Uthmani. We need to unite. The Muslim countries need to unite. And in other statements, he said that the Shia are Muslim. They should generally be considered Muslim. And specifically in this conflict between Iran and Israel, Muslims unite to fight the Israeli aggression. This is coming from Mufti Taqi Uthmani. So if I am a crypto Rafidi, I am ignorant of the Islamic tradition, I don't know all of the Hanafi ulama who have made takfir of the Shia, I am ignorant, I'm an agent of Iran. If you want to apply all those labels to me, which these specific, not all Deobandis, this specific group that Adnan was talking to, if you want to apply those labels to me, be a man and apply them to Mufti Taqi Uthmani. Be a man and apply them to the Akabir. Apply it to him. Apply it to your senior scholars. And it's not only Mufti Taqi Uthmani. Look at this. The head and deputy of Pakistan's largest Deobandi Sunni religious political party, Jamiat Ulama Islam, Fazl Rahman and Abdul Ghafoor Haydari, respectively, offer volunteers to help Iran. Quote, Iran just has to tell us how to help. Our volunteers will reach. And this is the statement. Let's play this.
ईरानी कौम को भी हम बताना चाहते हैं कि हम आपके साथ हैं। अगर आप चाहें तो हमारे रज़ाकार आपकी मदद के लिए भी पहुंच सकते हैं।
We want to assure the Iranian nation that we are with you and we will volunteer. We will send volunteers to assist you. You just have to contact our leader.
कायदे जमीयत से आपने राब्ता करना है और हमारे रज़ाकार मुजाहिदीन जो इसी मकसद के लिए तैयार हैं, इंशाअल्लाह तैयार हैं आप इसी मकसद के लिए इंशाअल्लाह अज़ीम कायदे जमीयत का हुक्म होगा, तरीका आप बताएंगे कि हम आए और किस तरह आपकी रियासत का दिफा करें, हम उसके लिए तैयार हैं।
And we are ready. We are ready. Our volunteers are ready. And then he appeals to the crowd, to masses of these Deobandi students and graduates. And they, yes, we're ready. Inshallah, we're ready. Our mujahideen are ready to fight with Iran against the Israeli aggression. Iran is part of the Islamic community. Here is the head of the Jamiat Ulama saying, yes, Iran is part of the Islamic community. We don't just condemn the aggression against Iran, rather we announce to stand with Iran shoulder to shoulder.
ईरान पर इस्राइल के जारहाना हमले की हम सिर्फ मजम्मत नहीं कर रहे, हम ईरान के साथ खाना बैठाना खड़े होने का ऐलान। बिस्मिल्लाह.
So this is like a hype edit for the Deobandis. Okay, so call them crypto Rafidis, call them ignorant of the mass takfir of the Shia that you claim is ijma', You claim that it's ijma, that the ulama of Sunnism, of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, have takfired the Shia, the 12 are Shia. You say it's ijma, so I guess these Deobandi scholars and authorities, I guess they're ignorant of this ijma. Because they're contradicting the ijma. They're blatantly contradicting the ijma. They're saying that we stand shoulder to shoulder with the Iranian nation. The Iran is part of the Islamic community, and we will fight to defend Iran against the Israeli aggression. Square that circle, please. If you want to say that Daniel doesn't know what he's talking about, that Daniel is an agent, be consistent and apply it to these other Deobandi figures. You're alone on this. You're alone on this point. You're going against your own akabir, your own senior scholars. You're going against your own authorities. Don't take it from me. You heard it directly from them. So be consistent. Stop pretending like you don't know that these statements exist. You're deceiving your audience. This is dishonesty. This is dishonesty. It's deception. It's context denial. And it's shameful. It's shameful that at this time, this is how you choose to dedicate your time instead of making videos against Israel, talking about the religious roots within Judaism of their genocidal behavior towards the Muslims, rather than using some of that brain power, some of that research power to help the Muslims against this genocide. You're dedicating time and resources to spread sectarianism, to spread the exact type of divide and conquer that serves the Zionist purpose. This is outrageous. This is hypocrisy. This is nifaq. In a time when the Muslims are fighting for their lives against the kuffar, that you're agitating against the Muslim side. This is nifaq. And this is exactly what the munafiqeen did in Medina. That is mentioned in the Quran. I cited it in the previous live streams. That when the Jews of Medina were attacking the Muslims, the hypocrites were the ones who sided with the Yahud over the Muslims in Medina. And they were called out as munafiqeen by Allah in the Quran. So this is a parallel situation that we find today. And alhamdulillah, the majority of the Muslims see this. The majority of the Muslims recognize this. You see what even the authorities have said. I've cited many scholars, many Sunni scholars who have all said the same thing. That according to the principles of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we side with Iran, who are Muslim, against this genocidal force. It's clear as day. The only people who oppose this are exposing themselves. They're exposing what they're really about. Okay, so that's my reaction. Now let's get into your super chats. If you have a super chat, now is a good time to put it in. Eunice says, you think Iran will be attacked or attack again soon? Yes, as I mentioned, I think they will be attacked soon. Noman says, Assalamu alaikum, brother. May Allah grant you success in this world and the hereafter. Ameen. Appreciate your super chat. Type Petro says, did liberals fool Iranians? Did liberal Iranians take the red pill because they see the West as pure people, not barbarians, because they wear suits and short dresses, etc.? Yeah, I think a lot of Iranians, the more liberal types, they were red-pilled. And I said this a week ago. This is the exact opposite reaction that Israel wanted. Israel was hoping that these liberals, the monarchists, they would see this as an opportunity to overthrow the government. But instead, the liberals rallied behind the government because they were red-pilled. They see that what Israel is doing to the Palestinians, what Israel coordinating with the United States did to Iraq and to Libya, that's what they want to do to Iran. And when the Israelis say, and Netanyahu makes an appeal, oh, Iranian people, now's your opportunity. We, the Zionists, we're trying to help you. We really care about you, just like Adnan really cares. My heart goes out to the Iranian people, Netanyahu was saying the same thing. My heart goes out to the Iranian people. I want you to rise up and overthrow the government. Isn't it interesting how Netanyahu and Adnan have the same exact position in this war? So the Iranians could see right through that. And he said, you don't really care about us. You want to destroy our country. And the bombing campaign is proof of this. We're actually going to rally behind the government. And a lot of them are now seeing the reality of the West, the US, and Zionism. Jalma says, as a Shia, we lost faith in most non-Palestinian Sunnis. We will continue on to support Palestine. Our opinion now is to not bother with most Sunnis. That's a mistake, because don't go by the loud voices online. You have literally a Wahhabi campaign that's being boosted by Israel, that's being boosted by the UAE and these Gulf bot farms, that they're trying to boost anti-Iranian sentiment and pretend like it's representing the position of the majority of Sunnis. The majority of Sunnis are actually on the side of Iran, and if you look at comment sections, you can get that indication very clearly, that you can see it for yourself. Look at Adnan's comment section replying to his video. I think the majority of Sunnis see the truth of this. And if they didn't see it 6 months ago, a year ago, they see it now. Now it's becoming more and more clear to them that there needs to be support for all Muslim people against Israeli aggression. John says, Iran did not want to genocide Sunnis any more than America wanted to genocide Japanese people during World War II. It had to do with ideology and power, not sect. Iran wants unity with Sunnis. Yeah, I mentioned this on the previous stream as well. Like, Iran is like a modern nation state. It has different political factions, different political pressures that it's dealing with. So it operates in the mold of a modern nation state. And so it tries to preserve its interests. It tries to preserve its power. It tries to extend that power. And oftentimes this is not in line with Islam or the interests of Islam as a whole. And this is a problem. This is absolutely a problem, and it's contrary to the Islamic ideal, which is the Khilafah. We can point that out. We can point out that reality. We can criticize that reality, whether it's coming from Iran or any of these other Muslim governments, Muslim states. We can point that out while recognizing the ideal of the Khilafah and supporting the Muslims and these governments against the much greater evil, the far greater evil. Samson says, also what they did to the Yazidis too. So yeah, ISIS attacking the Yazidis. They're not Muslim. They're like a Christian subsect, right? I forget. Both. Samson says both. I don't know what that's referring to. Mo says, Salam, brother Daniel. Please accept this overdue support for your awesome channel. I really appreciate the support, Mo, and your kind words. Dawa Trucker, thank you for your big super chat. Wa alaikum assalam. What we must understand about that statement made by that Zion Nazi military spokesperson is the fact that he's trying to fuel more sectarianism into the hearts of the Muslims, Arabs, a tactics to make us forget Palestine conflict. Yes, absolutely. And what have the Palestinian leaders said? What has Abu Ubaidah, Sinwar, Hania, before, when they were alive? What did they say? They said, put aside sectarianism. If you really want to support the Palestinian cause, you need to actually work with Iran. You need to work across sect, across nation, across ethnicity. We have to work together. If you actually care about the Palestinians, this is what we're urging you to do. This is what the Palestinians said on October 7th and before October 7th. And the Wahhabis spit in the face of the Palestinians in the early days after October 7th, They were even calling the Palestinians deviant grave worshippers who ally with the Shia, Ikhwanis who ally with the Shia, who are deviants. That's what the Wahhabis were saying initially. But because there was so much popular support for the Palestinians and there was so much backlash against the Wahhabis, they stopped saying this. They stopped openly talking about what they really think about the Palestinians, and they pretend like, oh, we make dua for the Palestinian people. Our heart goes out to the Palestinian people. They started taking up those kinds of lines because they can't reveal their true views about the Palestinians, that they're actually Ikhwani, deviant, grave worshippers, who are, many of them are Ash'aris. So they can't spread their usual hatred, so they do taqiyya. The Wahhabis are the best tool for the Zionists against the Palestinians, and the Palestinians themselves recognize this. The Khaliji countries actively help the Crusaders kill Muslims of Palestine, etc. And how can they deny they do not know what the Crusaders' end goal is? Yeah, how can they deny? We see it. We see it in 4K. We know it because this is what they say in their books. We know it because this is what they've said in their published documentation, like the Yemen Plan, like the Clean Break Report. These kinds of documents and memos have been published. People are aware of it. Their plans to dominate the Middle East, their plans for greater Israel, their plans to eliminate Islam. Even the Quran, even Allah speaks about their plans that they want to destroy belief and iman. Even Allah is mentioning it in the Quran. But you have these idiot Wahhabis like Adnan Rashid and other sectarian haters who want to claim that no. Actually, Iran is 10 times more evil. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Thank you for your super chat. Good to see you as always. I listened to all 7 hours of your discussion with Adnan. Yes, he cut you off nonstop, and yes, he was sometimes logically inconsistent, but I wish you guys would remain civil. Take the high road, my brother, for the sake of Allah. I was very civil in those 7 hours. I was extremely civil. I was extremely laudatory of Adnan, praising his efforts against the Qadianis. I was very respectful despite his nonstop disrespect, despite him cutting me off, interrupting me, insulting me, trying to trap me, giving me like a test on hadith in the middle of it. I was very respectful despite all of his antics and his tactics. But that respect ended when, as soon as he left that stream, despite all the rudeness that he showed me on the stream, as soon as he left it after the 7 hours, he went to Twitter. He starts calling me a shirk apologist. He starts calling me a crypto Rafidi. He starts attacking me in this way and that way. Okay, whatever. You know, I didn't respond to most of the things that he said. I didn't respond to most of the things that he said against me. But when he starts making false claims and he starts serving the Zionist agenda with blatant lies, then I have to respond and I have to call him out because it is so outrageous what he's saying. And as I mentioned at the earlier part of the stream, I do keep it civil. I think it's husn al-dhan on my part to say that he's suffering from some kind of mental disability. That's actually a good assumption about him, as opposed to the alternative. The alternative, which is that he's a literal agent and he's literally getting paid to spread this sectarian propaganda. I am giving him husn al-dhan. And when he runs away from debate, I'm going to call that out. You know, it's cowardly. It's something that anyone can recognize as just a huge shame. To run away. You claim to be a debater? Then why don't you debate me? Is Iran or Israel worse for the Middle East? Why won't you debate that? Ridwan says, a Christian friend with a little knowledge of Islam is also aware of this sect stuff, and he was seeking to get me away from advocating for Iran. Are you sure he's a Christian? Yeah, maybe he's not really a Christian. You sure he wasn't, wearing a yarmulke? Did you check the yarmulke? When he was reading the Bible, was it the Bible or was it the Hebrew Bible? Did you check that? Are you sure that it was a Christian telling you this? Yeah, you have a lot of Christian Zionists, unfortunately, and now we have Muslim Zionists. Those who are in the closet Muslim Zionists, and then those who are open Muslim Zionists. You have people like Rabbi Ferris. You have people like this, what's his name? Loaya Sharif. That's his name, right? Amjad Taha. These are explicit Muslim Zionists who are openly saying that we have to support Israel in this conflict with Iran, and even with the conflict between Israel and Hamas, we have to support Israel. They're explicitly Muslim Zionists, and they're advocating Israeli domination of the Middle East. Okay. Any other comments? Anything else? Okay. We're almost at 3 hours, so it's better for me to cut this off around now. I'll clip the Adnan reaction and have a separate video, so if people don't want to watch a 3-hour live stream, they can just watch the that section, inshallah. Going to have a lot more content coming later this week. Videos, I've recorded some separate videos reacting to different developments with Zionism, with Iran. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, put the notification bell on so that you get notified whenever we have a new video that comes up. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. You can find the link to the newsletter sign up in the description below. And let me know what you think of the show. Let me know what you think about Adnan's agenda. If you agree with my analysis, if you agree with what I've presented, feel free to comment in the comment section. And that's all there is for today. I will see you, inshallah, on the next episode of Haqiqatjou. Looking forward to it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.